Going live.
The lengthy bunch.
Welcome everyone to the Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board meeting for April 18th, 2024. Please join me for the pledge to start. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. As usual, we have a long agenda, so we'll get right to it. Let me squeeze in here. First up is Beacon Residential, 297 Violet Avenue. Everyone keep their mics down so they're not pointing at the speakers. Thank you. Welcome back.
Good evening, thank you. We've revised the plans since the last time we met. We provided some proper fire access and some diagrams showing that the proper truck template can make it to the back of the behind the building. Some lengths for firefighting and everything else, and also clarified with DOT mainly about the front driveway and the configuration of how that's going to be.
Yeah, they wanted it a little wider, as I remember.
Yes. So I increased that, and we got that all squared away, and that did increase our impervious surface a little bit. But I've updated those numbers and pretty much squared away most of the items that were outstanding. And actually, since I submitted, I also have gotten a hold of a signed and sealed survey for the property as well.
Okay, thank you. This is our planner, Eric, has looked at this. He's not quite here yet, but he recommended we open and adjourn the public hearing and be able to do secret tonight. And so you can go to the town board for your rezoning and move on from there.
Yes.
So he had a few last minute comments on his sheet to look through. Aside from that, I'll go to Andy for engineering, last minute comments.
Sure, yeah, a lot of our comments have been addressed. We are looking for final confirmation from the DOT, when you get that everything's all good to go. We would like to see a copy of that survey, when you get a hold of it, please submit that.
I do have it.
You do have it? Okay,
Yep.
yeah, so please just provide that. And then we do still have a couple of comments about the lighting that was added, just to make sure they're full cutoff and aren't gonna have any off-site impacts, so.
Yeah, and we have the commercial stuff to the south there, but there's some residential behind as well.
Yes, and actually one of the comments, now that I did submit new lighting, was that now the south side of the building is dark on the commercial side between the building and Schmeling Glass building. So I'll add some lights similar,
Fix that a little bit, okay.
just to fill in the dark spot.
Yeah, the parking needs light, but not too much that it spills into the neighbor.
Yep.
All right.
And you got some feedback from DOT, you saw that, right, about just you'll need a highway work permit?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, at this point, I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, call to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Just for those of you on Zoom, just to let you know, we have a full 7-member board tonight. Is there anyone that wishes to comment on this application in the room or on Zoom?
Again, this is Beacon Residential, Violet Avenue, 297 Violet Avenue. If you're on Zoom, just unmute yourself or raise your hand.
When do you think you can get to the town board to come back?
I will.
Probably for the main.
Well, we have to go to the ZBA as well.
Okay.
Yeah, town board first and then the ZBA.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah,
So
So
I can submit probably next week.
so we'll target
June.
June, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's the middle for The 16th is coming up for May.
Oh, okay, yes.
All right, I move that we adjourn the public hearing to June 20th, 2024.
Second.
Call the question, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Go around the board for comments. Anything else, Peter?
This application reminds me of a tailor I used to use down on Mount Carmel Square. You know, I'd call him and ask him, you know, is it ready, is it ready? And he would always respond by saying, you can measure 1,000 times, but you can only cut once. So I'm glad to see that finally, you know, we look like we're at that point where we're ready to go here. We responded to all the comments that, you know, you've received from the board and from elsewhere, and it looks like we're finally coming to fruition, so good luck.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Peter. Anything, Ben?
Nothing at this time.
Nicole?
No, just, you need some reapprovals, for variances, and it looks like you need a new one for the impervious. Other than that, I think you're pretty good.
Hey, Rocco, anything?
Nothing new.
Sharon?
Nothing.
And Steve?
Nothing.
All right, my comments, I think we discussed already, the lighting issues to address. Yes, and, yeah, I mean, you need a large variance for the trash, but it's back behind that commercial building, so I don't think you'll have a big issue with that, so.
Yes.
So, you've gone through that before. All right,
Okay. I move the planning board convey a positive recommendation to the town board for a zoning map amendment.
you got no secret
To
first.
Oh,
secret.
I'm sorry. I move the planning board hereby determine that the Beacon Residential 297 Violet Avenue site plan would not have a significant adverse impact on the environment, and that no environmental impact statement will be required for reasons as set forth in the secret negative declaration for an unlisted action dated April 18th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded for seeker. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
I move the planning board convey a positive recommendation to the town board for a zoning map amendment to change the zoning for tax parcel 6163-19523-128 located at 297 Violet Avenue, consisting of .445 acres from residential single-family 2000 R20 district to residence multifamily RM district.
Second.
Moved and seconded for a positive recommendation. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Move the planning board defer further action on this application and direct the applicant to respond in writing to the comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following 1 through 10.
Second.
Moved and seconded to defer. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, you're good to go. So on to your next step.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Back here in June. Next up is IBM Building 3 Quantum System. Change of location, huh?
Yes, good evening. Scott Miller with Spot Stevens and McCoy,
Yep.
representing the IBM project this evening.
Welcome back.
Thank you. If I may share my screen.
Yeah.
If you can see that.
Yep.
This is, I'll give you a quick overview of the project. This is an overview of the IBM campus. The crosshatched area is where the proposed project is going to be located. This is a relocation from the 414 project, which was located over here. Basically, same kind of concept. It's going to be outdoor generators and chillers to support the equipment that is being moved into building number 3. And they will renovate that building to support it. And this is basically providing support for that building. So the proposed project was intended to be phased. We were going to, if I can get this to work, we were going to go ahead and show that the project was going to have 2 generators and 2 chillers for the first phase, and they were going to up real quick. This was the overall build-out that was intended for the project. This, we decided to split the project up. They were going to do the first phase, which was going to be the 2 generators and the 2 chillers, initially, and then we talked about the overall build-out. We thought that it would make sense to come in and get approval for the entire build-out for the project. Unfortunately, we're being told that the timeline for approval to finish construction is 2 years.
Right.
And unfortunately, that is not going to happen for these additional units.
this
So
second, okay.
most likely, what we're going to do is pull back and just ask for approval of the phase 1 project.
Yeah, that was my question, was how long between your phases?
Yes. So this is what the phase 1 project will look like and what we would be seeking approval for. So basically, it is going to consist of 2 pads for the generators, 2 pads and the chiller equipment. And then because there's such a long lead time on the generators, we are going to be providing temporary generators at this location, which will be removed at some point once the other generators are up online. We are going to have a trestle crossing the driveway and connecting to that, so there will be no underground construction in this with piers that are located. And I do have copies of that, which was part of your packet of information. So, so basically tonight, we had the review letters. We noted there was not a whole lot of site engineering associated with it. But we do have questions about what the town would like to see regarding fencing and landscaping, now that we were only going to do the phase 1, because we were going to hold off putting any permanent landscaping in until we got the full build out. So that's basically what we're here to discuss this evening. The other items in the review, I think, were pretty straightforward. I don't have any issues with those, so.
Do you know how high the fence would be?
Um,
Is it similar to the one around the generators over by? in the north,
Correct,
By 7 right
correct.
there?
And I do have a photo that the architect did generate on that, which will give you an idea of what that looks like.
Yep.
This is a perspective of the, what the phase 1 would look like with the fencing and the trellis that goes across. You can see the trellis on the lower picture. And the full build out would have been the one on the right.
So it'd be piping and electrical going across.
Yeah, correct. So
All right.
that pretty much sums up
In a nutshell.
my presentation, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. I do have representatives from IBM and from the construction company on Zoom with me this evening, if there's any
Right.
specific questions.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Go to Kristen for her assessment.
Yeah, thank you. So, we appreciate the update about phasing. So it looks like we'll have to probably meet maybe a little bit offline, with some staff and just have a discussion about now they're just being the phase 1 approach. But the application is on for a public hearing this evening, seeker review, coastal consistency review, site plan review, and architectural review. For seeker purposes, it is an unlisted action, subject to an uncoordinated review. We wanted to confirm the area of disturbance. Obviously, now again, also, it was previously, but still would like to understand what the actual area of disturbance is. So just updating the EAF and also just squaring that away with our engineering staff, just to make sure that any erosion, sediment control measures that might be required, and that confirming that we're nowhere near that SWIP requirement. And so my comments were fairly minor. Most notably was the comment about there is in excess of parking on this property. So we were hoping, staff were hoping, and has previously mentioned, the board has my comments about reclaiming some of that paved area, perhaps as additional screening, landscaping, or grassed over. I know that you had mentioned like pollinator gardens and things like that in the past. So potentially reducing the pavement on the property. So again, given that we're just learning that we're scaling back the project at this point, I think that I'm echoing.
I know, I hear that. I'm not sure why. If anyone has their laptop on, can you make sure to have it, this sound all the way down? I think that's in the back,
In
right?
the room here.
Don? Thank you. All right. Nope,
No?
no, it's not anybody on the call. It's just his speakers. I think we're good. Okay.
All right,
Yep.
cool. So, long story short is that now that we learned that we're scaling back the project, let's regroup a little bit. Certainly have the conversation about screening, landscaping, fencing, because it was a little bit, it was a lot with the fencing, like chain link fencing, Jersey barriers being proposed. I think we just wanted to understand what the permanent structure will look like, with the said screening around it. And again, so that's up for discussion with the planning board. Ultimately, the fire department didn't have any comments related to access or anything on this application, but I would like for them to confirm, and again, once you resubmit, we would confirm with them that they have no issues accessing the property. I don't know how high that trellis is over.
16 feet.
It is 16, okay, so we'll just confirm with them about access. Otherwise, I think, staff's recommending at this point that the planning board would open the public hearing, adjourn the public hearing, likely to June. The May submission deadline is on Monday, so I don't know that, it's up to you to discuss if you would be able to turn around that submission in 2 days, but,
It would be tight, given that the proposed changes from the phase 1 to the phase
Yeah.
2. Plus, also, we weren't sure what exactly the board wanted.
right.
And with the amount of landscaping and screening, so we're gonna defer that until we had that information, and then provide a complete package
Yeah.
in May for the June meeting.
That's advisable,
Okay,
so
that
I
sounds
thank you.
We will,
And then, just recommending deferral on the application at this point. I believe county planning didn't have any comments, so you're all set, with regard to their review, and that's it from me, for now.
All right, thanks, Kristen. Andy?
I think Kristen pretty much covered it.
Sorry.
That's it.
All right. Yeah, I know it's a concern, like the cable tray height has to make sure the trucks can clear and the fire trucks, et cetera. I'm sure you have other things like that on the site as well. All right, at this point, I'll move, we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Anyone in the audience here wish to comment on the IBM application or on the Zoom? Can you unshare your screen now, Scott, so we can see if anybody's waving frantically?
There's not that many people on the Zoom, but I'm not seeing any,
Okay. All right, I guess you can leave it up for now. At this point, I move we adjourn the public hearing to June 20th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, we'll go around the board for comments on this one. Start with Stephen this time.
Just so I'm clear, in phase 1, then, once you're done with that phase, you will do the fencing. Then on phase 2, that fencing comes down, you expand, and then you re-fence?
Yes, that was the intent that, again, we were trying, for the phase 1, we were only gonna put up temporary fencing and the Jersey barriers and stuff, because we knew that we were going to expand, but if it's going to be more of a permanent situation, more than 2 years, we're gonna revisit that.
Yeah.
For security purposes as well as a visible,
Right.
impact.
Okay, that's all I have.
Sharon? Rocco?
Yeah, I'm good. I was also curious, like Steve, what, and Kristen already mentioned that you'll discuss that with the staff regarding what the material is,
Okay.
et cetera. Thank you.
All right, and Paul?
So you don't know right now whether or not it's permanent or temporary? Is that what you're saying?
The phase 1 would be permanent.
Okay.
Except for those 2 portable generators.
And
Because,
phase 1 is 2 chillers, 2 generators, is that correct?
correct,
Okay.
yes. The packet of information included phase 1 and the full build-out.
Right.
Okay.
And I was hoping to get approval for everything so that, they could proceed at a timeline. But if you have a 2-year window, for construction.
Yes.
Completion of construction, then that will, that
You'll have to
doesn't
come
look
back
like.
with a new
Yes,
application.
the lead time for generators is quite long right now,
Okay.
so
Okay.
that has been adding to the factor.
Is there any changes in lighting?
We will provide, any lighting that's being removed, we will supplement with,
Okay,
and they may provide some additional lighting, for the units themselves.
and you stated that, the fencing around it would be similar to the one that's already there. What is the material? Is it just chain, or is it like a vinyl, or?
It was more of a textured screen. We did include a detail of what we were going to do for the permanent.
Okay.
That was included on the plan.
Is that what you're planning on doing now
That's
that you've
probably what,
downsized?
something similar to that or something very similar to it.
Okay, all right, that's it.
Ben?
I think Kristen and Ken covered it, so I don't have anything.
Peter?
What's the fuel source for the generators?
That one I don't know. Sure, are you online?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Cheryl's iPhone, which
Yes.
is there.
So it's like,
Let's see, like,
It was discussed at one of our meetings, and I just don't, I apologize.
oh,
I'm
yeah,
in
there,
the
Yeah.
yeah, there she is.
Sorry, I had to get myself off mute. I couldn't hear the question.
What is the
What-
fuel source for the generators?
Diesel.
It is diesel. Okay, so you'll provide us with, your plan for, you're gonna have tanks on site there on the, I mean, I didn't see anything on the
No,
drawing.
there were no tanks that were being proposed.
So if they're using
No,
fuel,
we have fuel trucks that come in, so we have access to the generator yard. So that's why we have the gates near the two generators, so that we can bring fuel trucks in.
where are the
to fuel
tanks,
them.
where are the tanks
I've
located?
seen that one.
Oh, the tanks on the generators are on, they're belly tanks,
Okay.
under the
The
generator,
generator sits on top of the tank.
so it's all self-contained.
correct.
What's your calculation of the area of disturbance?
For the full build-out, we were at 0.94 acres.
Okay, whenever, as you know, the tipping point is 0.95. Whenever we get like 0.94, my antenna I get nervous. So I want to be sure that our engineer takes a good look at how you calculated that number to be certain whether or not we need a SWIP for this project or not.
Well,
And
because
now that
we're
it's being
packing,
reduced.
yes,
yeah.
we're reducing the disturbance.
Short term,
Eventually, we would have to come back for reapproval for the other generators. So at that time, we would apply for this with the permit.
well, what would you recommend? Would you recommend that we know the area of disturbance now or wait until later?
It's kind of a complicated question, because there is
Okay.
such a thing as a common plan of development. If the full build-out is contemplated, it could be considered a single project.
I would
in which
think so.
case- In which case, it should be considered as one full project, whether you're building it all now or later.
I'm with
in
you.
parts.
And I'd like to see the calculation of that area of disturbance before we move forward.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I also, would like to understand, the board's opinion about any reclamation that might be part of phase one and/or phase two. It might be good to have that conversation and voice that opinion at this point, because once they go back to the literal drawing board and then we're working with staff offline and then coming back to this board, I think you would wanna know how that impacts your overall development plan.
I mean, legally, Lisa, if we did 2 years, is there a way to extend that, or so they can do the whole plan now, or?
You can, yes, as part of the site plan approval, you could grant an extension of the 2-year period for things to get fully built out, understanding that it will be in phases. You'd have to put some condition
have to
on
put a
it, some
number
limit
on
on
it.
it, but yes, you could.
We have another item on the agenda tonight where we're going to approve an extension.
Yeah, so I don't know
Says
if
otherwise,
there's
but-
that's an extension.
Well,
of,
it's better to do an extension, you know, if you know you're going to need it, I don't see any reason why the board couldn't do it now and build it into the approval.
I'm just saying that might make the whole thing less complicated as far as the disturbance and all that, unless you think it's 10 years out or something versus.
They weren't very
Clear.
detailed about, I don't know if it's going to be, I mean, the lead time for the generators now is almost 2 years.
Yeah, and frankly, we've already approved a project that has now
Right.
gone away and they've relocated it on the
Correct, correct.
property. So personally, as staff, I would rather have a pulse on the project development than say you're free to go, and then it's on staff to be making determinations that ultimately should be coming before the planning board if things change.
Yep. All right.
You know, one thought is that if there's less disturbance now, then it might make it easier to eliminate some pavement,
Right.
and actually start literally digging into that topic, which we've talked about before, and that there's all this excess pavement on the site, so that's another
Yeah, I
thing
mean,
to consider.
I think what we would think is the pavement in between, the final fence and where the old credit union was, so that section could be landscaped a little nicer against the fence to help that area, because now it's a cancer center there.
Okay.
So it's stuff we can talk about with staff before you submit for June.
Okay.
Right, so I brought that up while you guys were looking at the iPad, and that's why I wanted the rest of the board also to weigh in, if possible, on whether or not that's something that the board would like to see. Yes, no?
No, yes.
I'd say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a question on the fuel, is there any kind of spill protection for the fuel of these generators, do you know? How does that work?
I know for the temporary ones we do. I'm not sure about the permanent ones. I would assume.
Isn't
that-
Yeah,
containment?
we'll have spill,
is
we
that
will have spill
required?
containment.
Yes,
We will,
Okay,
yes.
the voice in my head
It's
is
part of the
saying
site
yes.
requirements.
and do you know how often the generators are cycled for testing, that kind of thing? Or, I guess I was just curious also about noise of the fans and the generators.
We can
'cause
provide,
now it's
we
closer
can
to
provide
the-
that documentation if you would like to see that as part of the overall, startup and maintenance of the generators.
Yeah, now it's closer to across the street, what's going on, and there's a daycare there as well,
All right.
so.
I do want to revisit the question of the full build-out. I think what I'm hearing is you prefer just the phase one at this time? Is that,
We're echoing again. So the town code, it says 2 years you have to complete construction, right? And there is an ability to get a time extension. If the planning board wants to discuss adding a condition or a note on the plan about construction and the time frame, then ultimately I defer to legal because I'm just reading what our code says.
okay,
Yeah, I guess the question is whether they actually have an idea of what that time frame would be,
Right.
right?
Okay.
It doesn't sound like, based on what you've said, that they really know if and when they're gonna do the second phase, in which case it probably doesn't make sense.
okay.
But if that's not the case, after you confer with your client, then we can talk about.
Yeah, I mean, if they know it's 3 or 4 years versus 10 years or totally unknown, then
Yes.
it's a different question. So.
Okay.
And it would benefit you to only come in this one time and get the whole project approved and
That was my thought
with
too,
the
but
extension. So-
it sounds like the timeline, if the timeline was closer together, I would, I think the extension would make sense, but I'm not sure that they know how far it's gonna go out. So that's what I'm concerned about, that it may go out 5 years or 6 years or something like that, so.
That's not good.
That's the indication that I have from IBM. And if you put on top of that the lead time of generators being at about 2 years, it could easily be 5 years or more before we would complete a construction
For the phase 2, okay.
for the phase
So-
2, yeah.
So if that's the case, it sounds like we should separate it as just
Okay.
phase 1. And I just wanted to double check again, the fence height, is it, you said similar to the fence over by the 708 building there?
Yes.
On those generators?
It's, Cheryl, do you remember what the height was? Was it 6 or 8?
It looks at least 8.
Yeah, it does.
That it's probably 8.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was higher than 8, because we have an 8-foot fence limit as well. All right,
Yes, that's what I recall.
okay, thanks. So I guess that's it for now.
Okay. Move the planning board defer further action on this application and direct the applicant to respond to comments in writing of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following 1 through 9.
Second.
Want to make sure on that list, we have some detail about the containment for the oil tanks, and also a calculation on the disturbance area.
That would be planning board comments.
Yeah, yeah, it's covered under number 9.
Yep.
Better safe than sorry.
And as well as the comment that we're gonna proceed with just phase 1 at this time. All right, was it seconded?
Yes.
Moved and seconded. Call to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right,
I'll see
thanks
you in
again.
June.
And, good luck.
Thank you.
Next up is Banner Hill Community Project back before the board. Been a few years in the making here. I think you started out around 26 units, now you're scaling it down to 14.
That's right. Let's see.
Because there are some concerns in that area, it also says.
Okay. Good evening. It's good to be back. My name is Christian Paggi for the applicant for this Manor Hill Community Project. Yeah, as you mentioned, I believe the last time that we were in front of the board, we were around 18 units. That was back in 2021. We have since revised it down to 14 units after hearing concerns from the planning board relative to the wetland area and wetland mitigation and impacts to the abandoned septic system on the adjacent property, the existing mobile home park property. That resulted in us reducing down to 16 units. That plan was then presented to the town board last year, where we heard some additional concerns relative to the amount of open space that we were providing. We met with the prior town supervisor and Michael Safone, Councilman Michael Safone, out on the site to review. And we looked at, we walked the site, we also walked the adjacent site uphill, the residential subdivision off of Ray Boulevard, that Grand Meadows subdivision. Relative to sight lines and how this new development would be screened from that subdivision area.
Right.
Following the meeting, both Michael and the prior supervisor, Jay Baisley, seemed to agree that there was little impact to the residential area just due to the existing vegetation that was going to be remaining and the topography. The subdivision sits pretty significantly higher in elevation to the proposed project. So their concerns remain to be just the amount of open space that was provided and the proximity to the wetlands. So as a result of that, we reduced the lot count again down to 14 units. That is what is presented today. We were back in front of the town board in March to present this new plan and just to update the town board. Again, because this project will involve a rezone petition. The town board did not have any comments or concerns, at least that were raised at the meeting. So we are back in front of you guys to try to keep the site plan and special use permit application going. We submitted the Army Corps permit that we obtained, the nationwide permit 29. There was also a traffic study that was performed in response to some concerns relative to the proposed connection to North Grand Avenue and the potential for that creating a cut-through between North Grand Avenue and Van Wagner inside the park. That traffic study was prepared by HVEA traffic consultants. They looked at not just the potential for cut-through, but also level of service along North Grand Avenue and Van Wagner. The result of that analysis was that they did not believe that the project was going to have any significant impact on the existing traffic on North Grand Avenue or Van Wagner, with both of those roads currently operating at a level of service A and expected to remain at a level of service A after it was built out.
Do you have the number of how many cars, for example, would be added to North Grand? for this study?
There's, that analysis was under the assumption of a 16 lot
Yep.
project, so there's 2 fewer lots. I could pull up the traffic report, but the major concern was that, not with the new units to the vacant parcel, but redirecting some of the existing park traffic to North Grand Avenue. So it was, I believe it was around 14 PM and AM traffic.
Yeah, just the ballpark.
Yeah, it's a smaller number. I believe Seeker uses a number of 100 as 100 additional units in the AM or PM as a trigger for, looking at it closer for potential significant impacts. So this was far under any of those thresholds. And again, their analysis concluded that it was still going to be operating at a level of service A after the build out. And I believe a level of service C or D is typically still acceptable for peak hour. So this was falling well under any thresholds, and those intersections should be able to operate with plenty of capacity. They did recommend, relative to the cut-through concern, they did not believe that there was much of a potential for it to be used as a cut-through, just because there wasn't, their analysis, they looked at the amount of time that would be saved, the distance that it had to travel. It didn't seem like it would be something that would typically happen, but they offered some measures to dissuade people from outside of the park to cut through, such as signage, speed humps, no through traffic signage, private road signage, things like that, which the applicant is more than happy to include.
Yeah, I mean, with topography and things and serpentining through there, I can't imagine it would be a big desire to cut through there, but.
Agreed.
But the signage and stuff should help. All right, continue.
We received the comments from the town, the planning department, and its consultants. I believe most of them were relative to cleaning up the plan, some clarification. There were a few that we'd like to just review with the board. I think that we need some input from the board relative to how the open space will be utilized, and this area right here, if you can see my cursor, this is one of the areas where we removed two units, and we're reserving that for open space or recreation area. We're not showing anything there now. We're looking for some feedback from the planning board, what you feel would be appropriate there. My thought is that leaving it as just open lawn is appropriate, because then it could be used for anything. But if there's something specific, the applicant is more than happy to provide some improvements there if the board feels that that's appropriate. There were also comments relative to lighting. Our submittal included a response to the request for lighting, just that it was not anticipated, simply how these parks are usually laid out. They don't typically have site lighting, but they have building-mounted lighting. But again, the applicant is more than happy to provide site lighting if you feel that that would be advantageous. So if there was a few recommendations within the planning department comments relative to locations of that lighting, we're happy to work through that directly with the planning department, or if the board has feelings on that too, happy to have that discussion.
Is it a private road that remains?
It's a private road.
Okay.
There were some procedural comments that we understand need to be worked through relative to water, sewer, and when some of those issues need to be addressed relative to site plan and special use permit approval. Specifically, the sewer connection to the existing main that runs through this property. There's the question of ownership since it crosses over a property line. So the three options are that the property be merged, Transportation Corporation be formed, or the town take ownership of the main on the subject property. There already is an offer of dedication and a draft easement that's been recorded with the Dutchess County Clerk, reviewed by the town when this main went in to serve the existing park. So in light of the recent comments from both the water department and the sewer department, we are going to be working through that with those departments, with Andy and with the planning department to determine which avenue
option
works best.
If it's the same owner or something, it's just make a bigger park to merge, it might make sense.
Exactly. So originally we were assuming that we would be merging the property. The question was, when would it be merged? There was concerns relative to including the existing park into this application, just because of the complexity of the application already. There was comments from the sewer department relative to requesting upgrades to the North Grand Avenue pump station, and comments from the water department relative to the number of services on single properties. So in light of those comments, we'll be looking at those closely and kind of working through those again with Andy and with
Yeah.
Eric and with Mike. We've already had some initial discussions with the sewer department relative to that request, which was that was the first time we have heard that since the start of this project, that there could possibly be a need for upgrade of the pump station. So we're getting some more information from the sewer department relative to what exactly is needed. But if there is a need, the applicant has expressed that they are inclined to do what they can. So we just need to gather some more information.
Yeah, it's a few more years since you started this, so.
Exactly.
Pump station.
More than a few, actually.
Yeah, degraded a little. All right, anything else? That's it?
I believe that covers it,
Right.
but I'm sure that there's some comments that.
Well, I'm sure that.
Yeah.
Let me go to Eric for the department's assessment.
Yeah, this application originated in 2017, it was last in front of the board in 2021, as Christian mentioned. At that time, it was an 18-lot proposal, and despite what it says on the agenda, the application on file is 18 lots. The most recent submittal was for 14 lots, and that's what is presently before the board, is the proposal for 14 lots and not 18. He outlined some of the sewer issues. There are some procedural issues there for discussion with the town and applicant. I guess what I thought the board, that there will be some changes needed for the plan. If we can work through all of the issues, it's possible that next time that the plan might be in a position for an environmental approval. That would be necessary before the town board or the zoning board could take any action, because the environmental review needs to be completed first. But some of those procedural and utility issues have to get worked out first. It would also be helpful as part of that for some of the board discussion items to be addressed, because they relate to some of those environmental and zoning conditions. In particular, the review suggested that the board consider a few different issues to weigh in. They're really discretion of the board, more than planning direction on them. And Christian mentioned some of them, but in particular, they're bolded in the review relating to the use of the open space area, if it's okay for it to have wetlands in it. The board was previously receptive to part of the required area being made up of wetlands. It functions as passive open space. There is also the active recreation area, which could be lawn or something else, and that would be for board discussion and feedback. The lighting issue that Christian mentioned, again, it's a private road. We thought the applicant's proposal for no lighting, it's up to the board, but we thought at the end near North Grand Avenue, where there may be children being picked up, would be suitable for some area
School bus
lighting.
stop or
And also for the remote area between the two developments. It's a little bit remote, and that might warrant some lighting as well for safety. So the other items are there. I guess one item I'll add, I neglected to include, one additional comment to add would be that the environmental assessment form, it was marked up by hand, but it's still dated 2017, and more importantly, the EAF mapper generated by the DEC website that goes with it is also 2017. So those should have both be updated for the next submittal. With that, I'll let the board, this is also the first time the project is before the board with an open hearing, with a public hearing. So the board should take those comments into consideration as well. With that, we're recommending that the board open the public hearing, receive comment, and defer the application with comments for a next submittal.
All right, thank you, Eric. We start with the engineering comments. Andy?
Sure.
Scale this back is
Yeah,
good.
so, you know, as Christian did a pretty good overview of all the comments that we have. We did note that there's quite a bit of material that's gonna be removed from the site, so we're gonna look for just an analysis of, you know, how many truck trips you're gonna expect for that. Let's see, we got some comments about refuse and containers. I believe the plan is for each individual unit
Correct.
to have roll off their own individual containers,
Correct,
right?
we'll make sure that that's clarified on the plan.
Some comments about water, and the location of the meter pit, the proximity of the property line. We're gonna want that marked out by a surveyor before any work is done. Christian mentioned the comments about the sewer. That is a very old pump station. So, and a new sewer superintendent. So his first time looking at this. So that's the reason for the new perspective on that. And then, let's see, I guess, you know, we mentioned the ownership of the plans and, you know, of the sewer lines and what, you know, the ultimate, ownership will be. And then finally, just some swift comments, related to, conveyance and a few minor things related to the management plan itself. But, I think for the most part, that's in pretty good shape, so.
All
That's
right,
it.
thanks, Andy. We go next to our wetland consultant, since there's always wetlands in here. Carol?
Okay, we started also looking at this project in 2017, been working with Christian for years, and really have done a nice job of avoiding, minimizing, and then mitigating the impact. They do have an Army Corps of Engineers permit, which by the town code says we can utilize that application and permit. With regard to any additional conditions which the town has buffer, the town board may add additional conditions because of the buffer impact. However, just by the elimination of the existing septic system, has done a tremendous amount of improvement to that site, and particularly the wetlands. So I'm satisfied with that. There's just a couple of little things with the plantings. I'd like to see perhaps a rearrangement of some of the plantings to be more protective of the wetlands, basically put them adjacent to the existing or the proposed lots and the roadway, as opposed to amidst, you know, the center of the wetland, just to give it a little more separation and protection. We may need a guardrail along the roadway through that. That may be, I'm not sure, dependent on the drop-off from the side of the road
Okay.
through the wetland. And again, the wetland mitigation is for strictly the roadway, and that roadway area has also already been disturbed because of the installation of the sewer line. Couple of questions on the silt fencing, and reminded that, as per the core permit, this mitigation is going to have to be done, essentially completed before completion of the fill activity, meaning the roadway, completion of the roadway activity. So, but we're come
So
a
you're-
real long ways, and we're almost
Yeah,
there.
compared to where it started with
No, it
the
looks
additional
good.
units,
It looks good.
it has helped a lot. Okay, thanks, Carol. And from a traffic perspective, we have our traffic consultant on, Mark.
Yep, hi, how you doing?
Christian,
good
can you
evening.
release your screen?
They can see him.
There he is.
Sorry. Good evening, my name is Mark Petro from JMC, the town's traffic consultant. So, we did review the, what was mentioned by the applicant was the traffic analysis and their analysis on the cut-through potential. We did review the recommendations that were provided to provide measures to potentially deter any potential cut through, and we do agree with them with a few exceptions. So we did agree with the no through traffic signage to be located at the two entrance locations on North Grand and Van Wagner. We disagree on the use of the stop signage that's recommended at its locations that's shown. It's in conflict with what is recommended by the MUTCD. And we do recommend that the speed humps be installed on the straight sections of the new development where it is closer to North Grand, and also by the access to the existing development, as well as the associated signage and pavement markings for those humps. Those items, the speed hump specifically, would need to be, reviewed by the fire department for their concurrence. But we do believe that those would help further deter any possibility of the cut through in that using this. We did ask about providing some discussion on the construction traffic impacts due to the amount of material being traveled on the roadway. So looking for discussions of the roadway pavement conditions that might be affected, construction traffic volumes, and the routing for those anticipated construction traffic related items. We did have some technical comments, details of the guide rail and some other items there. We did ask that the stop sign and stop line be installed at the driveway connecting to North Grand and also the existing driveway connecting to Van Wagner Road.
Okay.
And we did have a discussion and comment on the site distance being based on AASHTO for the new driveway connecting to North Grand. And we understand from a response about the potential adversities of gaining easements on adjacent properties where the site distance might go over. And, potentially the applicant should look, if easements cannot be obtained, look at other measures to further warn drivers of approaching to that driveway on North Grand. And that's mainly the big items. And then the rest are all pretty technical items.
All right, and so I believe he said about, average about 14 at peak times. That sound right to you?
Yeah, as far as the number of trips associated with the development.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did, as mentioned, they did it based on the 16 units instead of the 14 that's there, but the total trips there were under that number, around 10 or so trips in the peak hours, based on the Institute of Transportation Engineers data for this type of development and number of units.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Okay, this is on for public hearing, so I move we open the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And we actually have some people in the room who have signed up ahead of time. Just remind everyone, we have a 3-minute limit generally. We'll see how it goes. And first one up is Alejandro Zavala.
Christian, if you wouldn't mind,
Do you want me to put the plan back up on Zoom?
no,
or not
I
yet?
would leave it off for now and then, yeah.
Al, actually, maybe it would be helpful perhaps to,
If I could, see, yeah,
to see the plan up so we could be
Okay.
thinking about the comments.
Hello, okay, you can hear me?
Thanks, Christian.
Mike?
Possible for me to say a few words?
We're going in order here.
But you wrote your name on the paper?
It's okay, you'll still have an opportunity.
Yeah, you'll get your turn, How you doing? Alejandro Ceballos, 238 North Grand.
Yep.
So, my concern would be, if you can scroll over to the left with the roadway, that you wanna join the, yes.
We're joining
So
the-
that's my little parcel right there, down there. Yeah. So, traffic, I know you guys said you know, they did their due diligence and doing the traffic surveys and all that stuff. Or the assumptions of the traffic. We feel the amount of cars that are gonna be coming out of this place, 2 cars per, but then in consideration with also with their, people visiting and everything like that. It's too close to the rail trail. So when they make that right off the road into North Grand, they're gonna have to slow down for the rail trail, which I know probably people won't, because people are gonna be in a rush to get out, to go wherever they wanna go to. And then what's gonna happen, I know they had a map there as well for the field of view, coming down from like Pell area, and the angle of view, like when they're coming up, what they would see. By the time they reach our house, they speed down that road, like towards the rail trail. We've encountered numerous, almost like close encounters of accidents. We've seen people coming off the rail trail getting hit by cars and everything like that. So now you're gonna have access, this road's gonna be accessible to not only the new units, but then the units on the other side. So my thing is just the traffic area, people coming off that road. Because we have near close encounters when I'm backing out, when we're leaving our driveway, people fly down that road and like we almost get hit. So I can imagine somebody coming down and somebody off the new road, proposed road, is gonna come out and again, wanna rush to get it wherever they wanna go to, and they're not gonna stop or yield to the pedestrians coming off of the rail trail and try to beat the traffic or beat the car coming down the road.
Right, I think it's a 30-mile-an-hour limit on that road.
Good luck.
But
Yeah, no, listen,
everybody ignores it.
I have a camera system that oversees the front of my house, so I can see the road.
Yeah, if you're adjacent. to
Yes,
the property.
so we see it. My daughters almost got hit by a car that tried to pass, that almost didn't stop for the bus, coming up the road. We just had a woman last month that was coming down from Pell and lost control and went on our front lawn and almost hit the telephone pole. And then kept on going and stopped like right in front of the rail trail. So that's the issue that I see happening. You're gonna have more vehicles coming out of this place. You can put all the signs you want, put all the speed bumps you want in this area, to deter people from using this as a cut through. But people are like a plague on this earth. They see something open up and they're gonna wanna go through it. That's just how it is. So again, traffic is one of my concerns, and then, and then privacy. Because, on here, it looks like it's far away from my house and everything, our house, but like we can, that's elevated. That roadway is elevated from our house. So we're gonna see traffic, so when we're hanging out in our backyard or something like that, people are gonna be able to see into our property.
And the walk traffic, they walk right through our yard.
Yeah. We have people already from the other mobile home facility coming through into their property now.
Walk through the property.
Yeah, well, because the roadway's there. Because when the access point, because when they did the septic, so now it's just open, so they come walk through, but then they come, people are curious. They want to see, hey, what's on the other side? Oh, nobody's here? They just walk through it. They've come through our house. Somebody shot a dog with a BB gun, stuff like that. Yeah. It's happened, we've had our quads stolen, yeah. So,
All right,
privacy issue and the traffic issue.
again, I know they said they did their, due diligence and, they had a whole bunch of engineers and everything like that, but do they really, are they just assuming that peak hours is, this is the amount of traffic that comes through here? And then you have Durft right down the street. Their trucks come through sometimes. And again, people don't slow down because those trucks have to stop, and they stop right before they have to slow down right before the rail trail. But people come flying down the road and almost rear end these trucks because they have to make that left-hand turn into Durft.
All right, thanks for your comments.
Yeah. Oh, and the other question is too, because can you scroll to the right-hand side of this map if you don't mind? So, okay, maybe it's not in this one, but there was another page where it showed, where the blue is right there? In the middle, it showed with the green. Now, they said on the, it was saying that was area of disturbed wetland. Was that only saying that because when they put in the septic, right? It was disturbed previously because of that?
That was disturbed, and they have to disturb it a little bit more for the roadway, but our wetland consultant has reviewed that.
And that's okay to put a road over that and everything like that? I mean,
As long as
we're
it's
trying to,
protected.
conserve the
permit
wetlands that are
process,
there and
yes.
everything, so they're just gonna pave over that?
Through the permit process, you're allowed a minimal amount, and they are mitigating for that, so it is permissible.
Yeah?
Through Army Corps, it is a federal wetland and a town wetland, and both of the regulations have a way to a permit process. They've gone
So-
through the permit process for that.
Okay, so just disregard the wetlands pretty much?
No, we don't disregard the wetland, but you're allowed,
Oh, that's-
They're allowed to-
a
Yeah,
certain
I mean, the
amount.
project's been scaled way back from what it was originally. I think
Yeah.
26 units to start with. and then-
Yeah, this has
then
been,
all the
been
way-
ongoing
all the way
project.
down to 14, so to
Okay.
avoid the wetlands completely as much as possible.
And then eventually, right down below where I'm sorry, what was your name again? Christian. Christian had mentioned down at the bottom there where the trees are, so they're gonna utilize that roadway as well, eventually, because I saw it was like project, future site of like, right there. So is that gonna be open up
No.
eventually
No,
for
that's from a
traffic?
previous project.
No, it's not. Okay.
That's a different.
I have a problem with the roadway to go next to my house, pretty much. Privacy and then just traffic and everything like that.
All right,
Okay,
got it.
thank you very much.
Okay, next up on the signage sheet was Jeff Keeley.
Just a reminder, everyone, there's a lot of people I know who would like to comment, so we're trying to ask everybody to keep their comments to about 3 minutes, not more than that, and just direct them up here to the planning board. All right, thanks.
Hello. I have a lot of same concerns he has here with the traffic. And, it's just a horrible, horrible spot where that's gonna come out, even if it's for the 16 units or whatever you got going there. It's,
14
right
now.
next to the railroad, next to the rail trail. And, people go speeding through there. There's signs up that there's a rail trail. They're speeding. I use it myself. It's putting all excess traffic as we speak now, even on North Grand, North Grand Avenue and Pell Road. We have a lot of problems with overweight trucks going on there, like they're talking about, the construction they gotta do there. It's a 5-ton weight limit road. There's all kinds of trucks running there all day with no construction going on there now, okay? And, it's unfair, I don't even like the wording of the circulation of the traffic, these units, from, Van Wagner over to North Grand, because it goes on to, all this traffic goes on to Pell, goes on to North Grand, goes on to Crestwood. These are all residential neighborhoods. There's no commercial over there, So you're putting on all these roads, people come through there, and they run the stop signs, they're speeding, and, it's just out of control, And there's absolutely no shoulder on North Grand, no sidewalks, it's a curvy road. You're putting the Salt Point Center up there with, according to what you have here, like, one's 3-story and 2 4-story buildings. 89 units, which really, how many, you're talking probably 178 cars, right? Every unit probably has a couple cars, right? You've let the gables expand. All the traffic comes down Salt Point Road. You in the future, I don't see it on this, but I know by the corn crib, you want to develop that also. So all this traffic is going to go over there. It's not going to go down. It's not going to go down Innis Avenue. Nobody wants to go to Innis Avenue because that's a mess going down that way. They all cut through these residential roads over here. It's unfair to us to have the circulation of traffic to help out the mobile home park on everybody else's street. What are you gonna do for us?
All right,
Okay? And, like I said, you're putting all those things there, and you have BOCES, like, you know, that was a good thing, they built the BOCES there, and they made the high school there, everything. All this traffic's going over there, all these buses are going through there. First Student, Wappinger, Spack and Kill, Beacon, you know, all these buses are going through there. Nobody goes on, why can't the buses go on Innis Avenue? Why are they going through the residential neighborhood? I mean, you know, so, I mean, you know, here you have expert traffic study, and this is, you know, but this is what's reality, okay? Just letting you know.
thanks for letting us know.
Yep.
Next up is Bill Fitzpatrick.
Hello, I'm Bill Fitzpatrick. I live at 103 North Grand Avenue. Been there almost 40 years, and I use the rail trail quite a lot, so I wouldn't say I was an expert, but I'm in the area a lot.
Yep.
And this project concerns me, not just because they want to expand the number of units in the mobile home park. They're talking about 14 new ones, but by opening it up to North Grand Avenue, it's not an addition of 14, it's basically every unit in that development now gets access to North Grand Avenue and now can add to the traffic there. So one, I'm concerned about the level of traffic on North Grand Avenue. Two, I'm concerned about the safety. The proposed access to North Grand Avenue is almost adjacent to the rail trail. I don't care what kind of signage you have there, people are gonna come out of this development and take a right, and they'll be on top of the rail trail before you know it. And it's already a bit of a safety issue there, as other people have mentioned. My point of view, or my view of this, is from my house. I'm one house off the corner of Lindbergh and North Grand Avenue. And I know I'm an old man, but it's like the old man gets annoyed that so many people run that stop sign, and it's just gonna get worse. If you're gonna do a traffic study, I'd like somebody to come by and monitor that intersection and see what goes on in that intersection, and you're just gonna make it worse by giving this access. So I can see, you know, if the fire department needs an emergency entrance point to this development, I could see something like that, but I really am opposed to giving this whole mobile home development access to North Grand for safety issues and traffic issues.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Next on the sign up is Ryan Wade.
Good evening, Board. My name is Ryan Wade. I live at 154 Ray Boulevard. My property is surrounded on two sides by the current Manor Hill mobile home park and where they expand to. This is my second time before the zoning board. My first time at my previous property, I wanted to put up a stockade fence around the pool. I was told 30 feet away from the takeaway on the road, which normally would be fine, of course, except that my property was only 60 feet across. I promise this is relevant.
Yeah, you're backed right up near the,
Yes, sir, I'm at the end of the cul-de-sac of Ray Boulevard.
Yep.
But on my previous parcel. My parcel being 6 feet wide, that would put it right through the middle. I applied for a variance. I was interviewed for about an hour. First, I was asked to change to a picket fence. I was asked why I would need such a fence, several things, and after going to private session, was told that I could have that 10 feet off, but only if I paid for expensive landscaping with multi-tiered design on the streetward side of the fence, because, and the reason was, it was not keeping in the character of the neighborhood. I ask how this would keep Ray Boulevard and North Grand or how it keeps the character of those neighborhoods, as opposed to the current zoning, which would allow for single-family usage, to have a mobile home instead. In my personal opinion, it does not, and that I'm asking that you vote against the rezoning request. I know that the environmental impact is not really to be studied today, but I wish to speak to that so that you can have some more information about that as you make your decision this evening. I personally, my property contains the water retention for the Ray Boulevard 3 cul-de-sac area as an easement. In my yard, I have box turtles, painted turtles, and snapping turtles that all lay their eggs there. There are a number of waterfowl, aquatic life form, and insects and reptiles that are in that particular pond and ecosystem and have reached a stasis. Of course, as you know, Section 116 of the Town Code regarding waterways, the environmental surveys that were used to satisfy the plans that were submitted by the applicant were done during a particularly dry time. I know at one point I escorted the people who were surveying the area to that spot so that I could, they were already on my property. I figured I would talk with them and see what they were up to. So any plans, any mitigation plans that are included in their lot plans in the EAF will be insufficient to replace or alter the boundaries of the wetlands, particularly for preventing flooding due to insufficient watershed divisions in Section 116-2, paragraph B, number 2, and stormwater drainage, which is same with line 3. As the easement that contains the current wetlands is on my property will flood if it does not have proper outflow. I would like to know who will be billed. No, that's a terrible way to say that. I would like to know that there are going to be protections that protect my property for when it does flood during the construction with all the earth moving and material being moved by the heavy machinery, and then also during what I believe to be planned on insufficient data in the plans, that right section, that east section of the plans, that is going to be left open.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. And, our engineering analysis is pretty thorough to look at, make sure no water runoff from the site occurs either during construction or after. Is what the state law asks that to happen.
Just worry that it's built on insufficient data because it's being very, it's like the Everglades. It's just a slow-moving river. I apologize for being arbitrary.
Yep, that's right. Thanks. All right, that's all who have signed up, but is there anyone else in the room who wish to comment? Come on up. And,
Yeah, let's go ahead and get the gentleman who asked to speak before. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you.
You got to come up to the microphone though, because because we won't be able to hear you, and the people at home won't be able to hear you.
Give him that mobile microphone.
I'd rather not sit. Okay.
Okay.
Good for my legs.
you can do that.
I'm just a little old man, you know. And I'm
You
here
just state your
because
name
there's
for the record,
information that
please.
You don't know.
Can you state your name, please?
That information is that there was 600 blind vets down at Castle Point. And there will be more. The way the wars are going in the world, there'll be more. And so, not only do kids play where I walk, right, and I have to walk, because if I stop walking, I'm gonna be dead. So, what do we want? What do disabled people want? They need peace and quiet. Some of us are blind. Some of us have some sight. But you have to consider us. You can put trailer camp anywhere. You know, but you have to think about people first.
All right, thank you for your comments. Let's see. We go to, I think you had your hand up first there.
Good evening. Tom Sparacino, 134 North Grand Avenue. I've been paying attention to the traffic on this road for a couple of years now. We get roughly And depending on the day, during the weekday, about 1,500, 1,700 vehicles up and down that road. Some days that's conservative, some days that's a little bit more, but during the weekdays, that's about it. Yes, unfortunately, I have the time to count them. Commercial vehicles, including the city of Poughkeepsie's vehicles, run up and down that road all the time. It's a 5-ton road. They do not belong on that road unless they're going or delivering someone there. I know I'm getting off subject a tiny bit, but this is all the traffic that's on this road. You know, they're landscape vehicles. All of the gas vehicles, propane trucks, oil trucks from down on Van Wagner use that road as a cut through. Not supposed to be on that road. Just adds to the traffic. So that's one concern. My other concern is that no one pays attention to signs. We all know it. It's just a world that it just doesn't matter anymore. So if you're gonna put a stop sign up, they don't stop on them anyway. So is that really gonna help? And everyone keeps talking about how, oh, it's only 14 more units. Well, when you cut from, if it's only 14 more units, why do they need North Grand Avenue? They can all go out Van Wagner. But it's not only 14 more units, and we all know that. The whole park is going to have access to go out that way, out onto North Grand. So to say there's only 14 cars or maybe 10 cars at the busy time, that's not true. They can't, you know, it's just not happening. That's not gonna happen because everybody else in there, if they're heading that way to go to work or that way to come home, can use North Grand Avenue. So that's, and then in proximity to the rail trail, which we've already had accidents there, we've had people hit by cars. To be that close to the rail trail, and then I believe that the storage unit is gonna have an opening coming out through there too. I'm assuming it's gonna be gated.
That's just emergency for fire.
So just, okay, yeah, I just saw they cut open and they moved the stuff. And proximity to the rail trail just doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's a very busy road. That road, besides the commercial vehicles that use that road, you know, trucks don't stop as quick as cars.
Yep.
You know, and the speeding is another problem. There's just insane speeding problem on that road. People do it all the time. They do it, the majority of them do it. So just to add more traffic to that road and for us to deal with it, you know, day in and day out, we live there. I just don't think it's a good idea. And again, like I was saying before, I hate to repeat myself, but if it's only 14 units and 10 cars, they can use Van Wagner. They're already open to that.
Right.
Just my opinion. But thank you very much for hearing me out.
Good opinion, right, thank you.
The lady behind
See,
you.
there's one more before Mike.
Hi, my name is Christine Shaw. I live at 191 North Grand Avenue, and I've lived there for 28 years. And my cousin Carol lives next door to me, and she's been there 47 years. So we can give you lots of testament on traffic. My biggest fear is the children in our neighborhood. My kids were young. I had to keep them controlled in the backyard and they couldn't go up and enjoy where they could throw the ball better and all that because I was so afraid someone was gonna come around that corner and hit them. In case in point, on Easter Sunday, we had an accident. A lady was not in our neighborhood driving through. She hit the mailbox next to us, the tree, and then into the fire hydrant up by Helen. My husband's a fireman and I worked at the hospital, so we both jumped out and started directing the traffic because we knew people weren't going to stop around that corner and they come across it fast. I can't tell you, I counted 50 cars that night. I had to wave my flashlights in front of them to slow down to tell them they had to turn around. That was at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So I don't know where the traffic thing's coming up saying it's, you know, only 100. 50 in 15 minutes about I had to stop. They cut through all the time to avoid Innes Avenue because Innes Avenue has that one light coming off of the arterial. The Dutchess Community College students race through there. The school buses that don't have students in our neighborhood race through there to get to Bosse's because Innes Avenue takes too long. So we get all the Wappingers and the Wappingers and Grange and so forth. We had stop signs a long time ago on Helen Boulevard, and they were removed. they didn't really help 100%, but they did help a little in slowing people down. I would like to ask to see if more stop signs could be added, and you're talking about, speed bumps, put them all down the road, we'd all be happy. Our street is very dark at night, the street lights aren't very bright, a lot of times they've been, pushed out, and we have to call them in because they've been broken. Let's see, and can I ask a question? What do the yellow lines on our road mean? What are they for? Does it mean it's a highway? Does it mean it's what does it mean? Because I don't understand why we have them, but Crestwood doesn't. We're the same neighborhood. So I'm a little confused about that too. I'd like you to, consider not opening the pathway for another way for people to come through. And I agree with everyone here. You have children trying to ride their bicycles down the street to go to the rail trail. In fact, my children were not allowed. I dropped them off at the Morgan Lake, and then they go up as far and come back, and I take them home. Because I don't want them crossing North Grand Avenue. I don't want them crossing Route 9 either. It's just, the speed limit is 30 to 30, but I can tell you they're doing 45, 50. They pass each other on the road if you're going 30. I've been passed many a times. It takes 10 minutes some days to back out of our driveways because the traffic is so heavy. And, even this morning, I went out with my cousin. She couldn't get out because somebody was there with, doing a lawn, and the cars were, instead of stopping and waiting, they were coming just right around the yellow line and kept right on going. So, and that was just this morning. I feel that, as a mom, and I'm gonna be a grandma, that I would love my grandchildren and other children that might come along to have a fun time on our street, but we can't have that. Innis Avenue is meant for that, not North Grand. So we would like something to be done if possible. Thank you for your time.
All right, thanks for the comments.
Yeah, thank
Yeah, I was glad you guys are all making us aware of the traffic issues on that road, because you would think North Grand would be Innis would be the one that has most of the traffic, but since North Grand is so curvy. Mike?
Good evening, everybody. Mike Safone, resident of 94 Fairview Avenue and town councilman in the 4th Ward. Everybody that spoke here tonight is 100% right about traffic. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, have driven on North Road. You know how windy that road is. It's already a cutover for anybody coming into Pleasant Valley to get to the city of Poughkeepsie, and anybody from Hyde Park cutting over to coming into the city. Traffic is very much so a problem on that road. I have the town police over there as much as I possibly can to stop the traffic now that's going too fast. The traffic study that was done, I have never had a traffic study done that I agree with, because traffic studies, and nothing against Mark, he's a great guy, does a great job. Traffic studies only count cars. They do not deal for safety reasons. Every time I've done, wanted to take a light out or put something in, a traffic study has to be done because the state mandates it. The best thing to do is always listen to the people that live in the neighborhood. That's why I'm asking you today not to allow the cutover road, because to reference one of my favorite movies, Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come, and they will cut through that road. I would probably cut through that road to avoid traffic, okay? So it's very simple. We're asking you just to alleviate the problem. Please make that entrance emergency access only. I talked to Christian. He seemed not against it when I asked him. He said he would, try his best. I haven't talked to him again since then, so I don't know how his feeling is. But,
We'll have to discuss it.
But we do have the rail trail there. I've walked that street many times myself over the last 20 years, and I've almost gotten hit a couple times. It is dangerous, so I just wish you'd make it, put everybody's minds at ease. We know we have to grow a little bit, but let's not cause us to lose lives in the meantime. Just make it egress only for emergency access, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Come on down.
Cheryl Jennings, 201 North Grand Avenue.
I've been a resident there since 1949. And for me to turn, on that curve, I have been passed on the left-hand side as I've tried to make a left-hand turn into my driveway. And cars fly up and down there. I've seen people, joggers, and that almost get hit on that curve. And even as they've tried to go down to the rail trail, bicycles and everything almost get clobbered. And they pass from Main Street all the way down to the Salt Point. People pass, cars, trucks, everything and anything going more than 30 and off the double line. And I can't even pull up in front of my property to let my husband out to go into the house so he doesn't have to go up the stairs, and because the cars come so close around that I can't open my door to get out. So I have to go down in the driveway and then us go up the steps. But it's horrendous. It's horrendous. And I feel sorry for anybody that wants to use the rail trail. And there's not even a lot of parking for the rail trail people that want to come down and park. We've parked down near the rail trail because we don't feel safe enough to walk from my house down.
Yeah,
It's horrendous.
not that far from you, but it's.
And there's not many parking spaces
Only two
either.
spots there,
Yeah.
2 or 3.
And I've seen cars pulling in along the rail trail and backing out and almost getting hit because of cars coming up, over, and down and not stopping. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. Anyone else in the room? See one in the back.
Hi, Sharon Wade, 154 Ray Boulevard. I just have a quick comment about rezoning it from residential single-family homes to mobile home park, in that the town will have less tax revenue rezoning it to a mobile home park as opposed to being single-family homes on that plot of land. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comment.
Carl,
Just
one
so
more.
everyone knows that we can't do, we're not making any decisions tonight because, they have to go to the town board to apply for rezoning, that kind of thing. So that's not our purview. But, well, if the town rezones it, then we will look at it again. But, come on down, someone else?
Hello, good evening. My name is Jeff Ringgold. I'm at 157 Ray Boulevard. My lot would be the closest to any of those trailers besides my neighbor Ryan. And I'm just wondering how close they would be to the wood line. I see I guess that's the tree line going around. I mean, because, that open space, people ride dirt bike, I can hear, I'm just wondering how close it would be to my property. And, because like I said, we moved there for the peace and quiet. Our kids are gone, me and my wife love it. It's so quiet, so peaceful. And I'm just wondering like how close it would actually be for as 100 feet, 200 feet. From what I can see, the tree, I guess that's a tree line running around the 14 trailers.
Right,
How
the
far
left.
away are they gonna be from like the end of Ray Boulevard, the cul-de-sac? Because that hill in my yard on the other side is the open space. So I don't know how far if it happens, how far they're gonna come. Because that would really be an issue, because, it would really change that whole area, not just here. I'm sure the people that live on Crestwood also, they're pretty close. But the end of our cul-de-sac right there, it's so peaceful, so quiet. And, you know, everybody really enjoys that, and, you know, I'm not against any progress in building and stuff like that, I'm just wondering how close that would
Yeah.
actually be to that end of the cul-de-sac if this goes through. And like, I don't live on North Grand, but I understand their concerns, because I pass through there all the time, the traffic is crazy. So I understand the people that live there, what they're talking about, because I would feel the same way. And so, I mean, you know, that's my concern, basically on the end of Ray.
Yep, I see
How
back-
close would it
back
actually
right
be
up to it
to
there.
us? You know, and would there be any kind of barrier? They're gonna put a wall up, anything around, because, you know,
I mean, it's mainly the trees, I think. and-
with the open space, you know, kids, you know, be riding dirt bikes, you know, and, 50 feet away in the wood line, I'm hearing dirt bikes, you know, and like, that I never heard before, like, this isn't what I, moved here for, the peace and quiet, so just consider that, and, and that's my main concern. Thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Anyone else in the room? Anyone on Zoom that wishes to comment tonight on this project? On Manor Hill?
Oh, yeah, we're on Zoom. Anyone on the Zoom who wishes to comment?
It's mostly,
Looks like it's mostly related to different
Developers,
projects.
yep.
Yep, applicants, okay.
all right. Seeing none, I move we adjourn the public hearing to June 20th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, now we can go around the board for comments. Start with Ben.
Well, it looks like there's a lot of work's gotta be done here. Neighbors have a lot of concerns, which I could understand. I don't wanna give an opinion right now, but, I can understand what they're saying because I've traveled that road myself.
Yep.
And it is dangerous.
Yeah,
I gotta say that.
way.
The other things, parking, you're gonna have parking for, the residents, no visitor parking?
Correct, that's all that the code requires at this point.
That's all it requires, but I think it'd be good if you could find some room, because that's gonna get congested too, and create more traffic. But from what everybody said, there's a lot to be done here, and I think it's a good idea, but we're not ready yet, that's it.
Yep, for sure. More work to do. Peter?
Just a couple of things. One, I want to underscore what the chairman said earlier so that no one has any misunderstanding. The vote on whether to rezone this property is up strictly to the town board. Our job is, if the town board approves it, it's our job to mitigate where we deem it necessary. But in terms of actually voting to rezone, that's a town board issue. It seems to me that I've heard that there was maybe some concerns, by the applicant that if the existing, Manor Hill were incorporated here, there was some concerns that there would be subject to site plan issues. I don't know if there's something that we can do to reassure them that wouldn't occur if they do decide to merge.
Right, I've had discussions with their council about that and assured them that at this point, the town had no, interest or plans to reopen the original Manor Hill site plan, so I think we'll be working toward a merger, but there are other things that, go into that, including that it will now, if the lots are merged, they need to abandon a water service and things like that.
But
So
I mean,
there's
it's on the
other issues.
table.
It's on the table.
Knowing that, it seems to me that if since you will have access, you'll have one property, you're gonna merge the properties. If you could look at eliminating, except for emergency fire department access, the exit onto North Grand Avenue, I think everyone would probably be a lot happier if there's some way that you could incorporate it into your design. I think moving forward would make this process a lot more fluid.
We're not sure if merging the properties at this point is going to be the way that we move forward, but we still need to work through that. It is still on the table, but those are the
Okay.
things that we need to
I'm just
discuss.
saying, in your thinking, consider that, I think, I don't know if anyone else on this board shares that concern, but I am concerned about that access to North Grand. And it may be a factor in how we decide to move forward. So I'm just saying, put that in whatever context you like.
Understood. And not to cut you off, because I think that the
That's okay.
applicant,
Go ahead.
the applicant is, and we are hearing the concerns too relative to North Grand. So we certainly don't want to be pushing forward with something that is potentially a concern of the town and the residents. And it seems like the majority of the concerns were relative to the volume of traffic that could be
I don't think it was just
redirected from the
strictly an
existing
issue
park.
of volume. It was more
Safety.
Right.
It was more safety than volume.
But if we were to limit basically put an emergency access gate at the property line between the old and the new park, so that the North Grand Avenue would be the only entrance and access for the new park for those 14 units.
Well, listen, we're not asking you to make that decision tonight, just look at it.
Okay,
And-
and I'll continue to work with
Okay.
Mike and the residents, and we'll try to come to
Just a few other quick items.
resolution.
Reading the report from Aspen Environmental, I see that you've addressed the concerns. I know we had a lot of concerns about the wetlands, and they all seem to have been addressed. I think, so that's not an issue, I don't think, at this point moving forward. The issue of the Transportation Corp, again, if you merge with the Manor Hill, the existing Manor Hill, it seems like that would be addressed. It would be a much less costly and time-consuming effort on your part. And I don't know if should we ask the traffic division to take a look at the accident history
Yeah,
on North Grand
yes, we should.
and have that report before our
Yep.
next meeting?
Sounds like the neighbors have seen a few.
Yes, please.
Yeah, and if they've also done the traffic check to determine, the average speed, I know they do that occasionally. So if we have something like that on file, that'd be very helpful. And that's it for me, thanks.
Is that something that the town's consultant would look into, or are you looking for the applicant to provide?
Police department.
Okay.
But it is actually something that your traffic
Okay,
consultant
that's,
could do.
just wanted to
Yeah,
confirm.
rather than put it on the police department.
All right, thanks, Peter. Nicole?
Thank you.
Well, a lot has been covered. I would like to touch on the lighting for a second. I don't know about the other park that we could possibly back into if this does get approved. But I do think it'd be a good idea to put at least a little bit of lighting in this park, for safety reasons, for the residents, really. As far as privacy is concerned, because that came up several times with the residents that live around there, have you guys thought about doing any type of fencing or anything to kind of go around maybe the border of this particular piece?
I mean, right now, there's a lot of trees in between, but I'm not sure
Yeah.
how many of those will need to be removed for the,
So, it'll be better.
there's a couple of neighbors that back right up to
Depicted on this.
Ray Boulevard there.
Right.
So there's a pretty significant grade change from Ray Boulevard down to the project site. And what we're proposing
forward,
is dense evergreen vegetation along that property line that will be planted along basically the top of the hill. So it's gonna be, you're already below it, and then you're planting evergreens that are gonna grow to 50, 60 feet tall and create a green wall eventually. So there will be pretty robust vegetative screening between the
Okay.
two properties.
Did you have something to say back there?
According to their plans, there's 4 feet of contour line between my property and the plan.
Say that again?
4 feet, there's 2 contour lines between my property and the proposed plan, our plan.
And you are over by the pond, correct? So I'm just,
Ray
just to
Boulevard.
clarify, I'm just speaking based on the elevation of Ray Boulevard.
Yep.
And the elevation down by this easement, by the drainage detention pond, this area will have no units.
No units, right?
No
It's
units.
just-
Yeah, I'm specifically talking about the units, if there can be any type of like fencing or something, so that they have privacy as well as the residents that are on the other side of that.
In between the units themselves?
It
No.
sounds like if,
The border, the border.
if there's a long enough,
So
if
these-
it's a large drop though, the fence won't.
Yeah, they'll be looking at a hill. They'll be at the bottom. So these homes will be at elevation 212. Ray Boulevard up here is at elevation 222,
So it's 10 feet.
10 feet up, and then there's this mound in between it too. So I think this goes up to elevation 234. This hill here, and then comes back down.
And what about on the other side, on North Grand? Are you putting fencing in front of those, mobile homes?
The plan was to extend the evergreen screening along that property line, and we can extend it further if the board would like that.
I'll just mention, one of the staff comments had to do with two standards for landscaping buffer adjacent to residential use properties. And there was some technicalities, depending on the specific circumstances of of an adjacent property, the standard could be, I think it was either 20 or 30, 25 or 30 feet. And so in some cases, it's possible that the trees are not, the depth of the tree buffer now is not dimensioned, but it appears to be about 20 feet, which might be a little bit less than the buffer requirement. Although that buffer requirement is at the discretion of the board.
Okay. Okay, and let's see,
But I,
Go
sorry
ahead.
to jump
Yeah,
in, but I
sure.
feel like the concern I'm hearing is privacy, right? So
Well,
trees
there's
aren't
another thing, but
necessarily
yeah.
going to be, I mean, yes, it's
Yeah.
screening,
right,
but that's not keeping someone out of your property, and
right.
so, that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, exactly,
Well,
yeah,
we need to keep the
All
comments
right.
back and forth between the applicant and
Yeah.
the board, right? I mean, just as
yeah.
a general,
Absolutely.
good,
Yeah,
meeting.
I guess we just need to talk about that further, cause I'm not sure that you shouldn't do fencing all the way around, like, the whole park. And I say that for noise, for privacy,
At least on that side.
yeah,
So
Where the tree line is that you're.
Yeah, so again, the whole park, there's a natural
I understand, you already
topographical
said that.
separation.
I
And not just on the
completely understand what you're
uphill
saying.
side, but on
Yeah.
the downhill side also. This is the rail trail.
Yep.
It also drops off significantly.
Right.
Yeah, we're not
down to
talking
the rail
about the
trail.
rail trail.
So you're
We're talking about the other side in which there's residents on the other side of that, that's what we're
Okay.
talking about.
All right.
And then just to, kind of reiterate also what, Peter said, as far as that entrance into North Grand, we might have to talk about that a little bit further, but I think also that should only be an emergency entrance and exit. It sounds like there's already too much traffic on that road, and this would just make it worse, so. That's all I have.
Thanks, Nicole.
Yep.
Rocco?
Yes. I've had several close calls going across the rail trail. They're both on foot and on a bike. And the proximity of that entrance exit to the rail trail really does concern me, because people turning right out of there are they'll probably speed up, and then they're gonna have to slow right down. So it's gonna be like a speed up and a heavy brake, and so that's one of my concerns there. And plus, there's a downhill to that point, so people will want to get out of there pretty quickly to avoid the other cars coming down. And plus, if you're going on a bike, you're required to stop for safety reasons also, which makes it even harder to get going again across that road. So it's almost wiser to walk your bike across, because you can always dump it and run if you have to.
I'm not sure what, I don't go up that way too often, so I'm not sure how many warning signs there are before the.
Well,
I know
warning
it's a-
signs
I know it's a
don't matter.
curvy road, but,
Yeah, well, I've been,
or lights or whatever.
yeah, even down in the Fishkill area or close to Fishkill, where it is a straightaway and you try to cross the road and people, I mean, here, maybe they're going 50, there they're going 50, 60.
Yeah.
Or more, so it is a hazard.
Yep.
That's it for me.
All right, thanks. Sharon?
The only thing that I kept hearing was about traffic. I think they have to have some serious answers to that.
I agree. Steve?
I think all the comments capture what do we do with the Grand Ave site. I appreciate the input tonight. I never realized how bad. I've been on that rail trail many times and I never realized how bad the traffic, so I think there has to be a solution on that side.
All right, I guess you're getting a consensus, Christian, that you should at least go back to the developer and ask him about making North Grand just an emergency access only, or potentially give a new traffic study with what the other proposal you said as well. But I think North Grand connection is what is a concern to the neighbors.
Would we be looking for the analysis, the crash analysis, if we make that just an emergency access? If we decide to close that off and just have it as emergency access only and direct everybody to Van Wagner, would the crash analysis along North Grand Avenue still be required?
I don't think so.
Not really.
No, there's no need.
Don't see a reason for it then, if that's the case. Do you know what the lighting is at the other neighborhood? That's, I think.
There's no site lighting.
No site lighting? It just seems odd. And the other question I had, you're talking about the activity space. I don't know if there's anything at the other thing, but if there's kids in the area, there might be a spot for a playground. It'd be between the two areas, and maybe that could be a useful amenity. Just looking at my notes here, sorry.
Is there anything at the other park, for kids, equipment or, swings or, I haven't been through there in a long time, I don't know.
Yeah, nothing
don't
more
see
than
it.
just individual use type stuff,
Okay,
so.
just curious, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I thought maybe that's something that could serve both if it's under the same owner as well, so.
So you're thinking
in that
thinking
spot
that's
there.
to provide some sort of improvement there?
Yeah.
Or instead of just keeping it open?
Right.
Okay.
If they, I guess that's it for now. You've heard all the comments from neighbors and the board.
I move that the planning board defer further action on this application as incomplete and direct the applicant to respond to comments of the planning board notes received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following 1 through 14.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Here.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks everyone for coming and giving your comments. Moving on to the next projects. We have some adjournments to do. 8 Tucker Drive, I move that the planning board adjourn the public hearing to May 16, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 7-0. 68 Van Wagner, I move the planning board adjourn the public hearing to May 16, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 7-0. Casper Hill South Road, I move the planning board adjourn the public hearing to May 16, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, called to question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 7-0. Extra space self-storage, I move the planning board adjourn the public hearing to May 16, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 7-0. Metro Roofing Supply, on Salt Point Turnpike. I move to, give me a couple minutes, okay. Planning board adjourn the public hearing to May 16th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Salt Point Center, I move we adjourn the public hearing to May 16th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And Washco Car Wash on South Road, I move the planning board adjourn the public hearing to May 16th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, we had a few adjournments. They'll be on a future meeting as the applicants work through the issues. At this point, I move we could allow public comment on any other items on tonight's agenda. Limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Anyone who wishes to comment on the remaining 3 or 4 items on tonight's agenda?
Anyone on Zoom again?
Room, or on
Yeah.
Zoom?
Looks like that's a no.
Seeing none, I move we resume the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Next up is Sky Point Hills on Manchester Road.
Good evening, Don Petroncola with Tickleman Architecture. This is Dwayne Hibbert, also with Tickleman Architecture. We have been before the planning board previously and received some valuable feedback. We redesigned the project and re-presented to the town board, and we are now back to show you where we are, what we're thinking about. This is not a complete application. What we're looking for here today is to generally get a go-ahead and develop this plan.
All right.
So what we've got here is a mixed use, it's kind of a mixed housing, apartment buildings and townhouses at 200 Manchester Street at the intersection of Spy Hill and the Arterial. We moved the two apartment buildings, which have 10 units each, closer to the front yard line in order to accommodate the grade change. We have approximately a 30-foot grade change from Manchester to the rear of the property.
Yep.
So that will certainly trigger a variance for that, but that allows us to lower those apartment buildings down to the elevation approximately of Manchester, create parking that is dedicated to those 20 apartment units at that lower campus. The grade change then occurs in the zone of the existing single-family house. And then we have the upper campus, which has the 2 townhouse buildings, which have a total of 8 units, and provides the entry and exit road off of Spy Hill, which aligns with McIntosh. A quick go through of some of the other supplemental drawings. All right, so this is just quickly the survey. The existing parcel is currently zoned BH, which has a mixed-use commercial and rental housing facility, and the rest is R20, which has the existing rental single-family house that would be renovated, salvaged and renovated as a community use building. This shows the grade change where the majority of that green space in the center of the campus, separates that lower campus from the upper campus. This is utility plan. This is the start of our turning radiuses. We are looking to maintain the existing curb cuts along Manchester, which is a right in, one way, and then looking for a one-way out from the primary parking facility back onto Manchester, which then would limit the number of vehicles going onto Spy Hill, which I think will be desirable for the residents of Spy Hill. One of the feedback comments, another feedback comment we received was the material choices on the buildings. We were asked to lighten those up, so we have lightened up the color palettes to tans and light grays, stone, regular shingles. One of the comments that has been brought up there, are there any covered porches? The third floor of the apartment buildings, in this area here, see it here, and here on the ends are exterior covered terraces. Those are the only decks we have. So in plan, you see we've got 4 two-bedroom apartments per floor, and on the third floor, the units are smaller, built into the roof, and you see those exterior terraces here and on the other side of the building. The townhouses are 2-story buildings. Again, we lightened up the material choices. The design palette is similar and compatible to the apartment buildings. Front and back, there are no terraces and decks on the townhouses. The plan is pretty straightforward. These all have private single-car garages as well as a small driveway in front of them. Upper floor is part of part of each unit. So we've got 4 units per building, 2 townhouse buildings. We are proposing 2 3-story enclosed garage structures, and again, keeping with the same material palette and scale. This is the as-built for the existing Dutch Colonial, which we will develop the use there. It's essentially going to be like a party room, a small kitchenette, a meeting room, package delivery, central mail facility, that kind of a thing. Some of the renderings on what this property looks like from Manchester. The first view is from Manchester. The second is coming in off of Manchester, taking the left towards the lower parking area. You see the 2 small garages, and you get a sense of that grade change up to the townhouses, which are to the rear. Rendering 3 shows the 2 townhouse buildings as you're coming up that road, and rendering 4 is the Sky Point Drive, Spy Hill entry road between the 2. The 5th rendering shows that main parking area that is between the 2 apartment buildings, and the final rendering shows the Manchester and Spy Hill Road intersection that currently exists, and get a sense of the scale on that building and how we brought those buildings down in elevation, which we think works much more successfully. We've received comments from engineering, from the planning department, from Dutchess County. We'll be going through those in greater detail. We'll want to set up meetings with the fire chief, with the engineers as well, because some of the comments we've received from the different departments are kind of in conflict with one another. So we'll need to get some clarification on that, and move forward, obviously, into updating photometrics, updating landscaping, cut and fill, that kind of a thing. So this is really just kind of to present the new layout, get some feedback, make sure that this is a preferred development from where we were last time we presented.
All right, thanks, Don.
I did that about as fast as I could.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it is better. I mean, before you had, it was high relative to the neighbors, and now that you've changed the whole elevation there.
Correct.
It does fit into the landscape a bit better.
I'm sorry, one more thing. We did receive one feedback. I mean, the town board generally approves the project. That we received one point of feedback that they would like to see a small playground incorporated, and we're currently looking to find a spot for that is flat enough. So we will be incorporating that, and we understand that there is some opposition by the neighbors on Spy Hill and McIntosh. And Ann Sershin is currently canvassing that neighborhood, and we'll be setting up an informational meeting with neighbors,
Okay,
hopefully before June.
that would be a good thing to do.
All
Yeah,
right.
I was just looking, look for the playground, I was thinking near the house, but, there's a lot of topography near it, so.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Kristen.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so it's on for a seeker review, advisory report to the town board regarding the zoning district change. There are 2 parcels currently that are going to be merged. The existing zoning for those 2 parcels are R20 and, oh, I just confused myself.
Business
Yep, thank you, BN and R20.
Yes.
And with the proposed change to RM, it is also on for site plan review and architectural review. Just by way of background and for the record, because this started a little ways back, the application came before the town board September 2023. The town board referred the application to the planning board regarding the zoning district change advisory report, and also to conduct the environmental review. So then the applicant made an application and appeared before the planning board in December. In December, the planning board declared their intent to be lead agency for an unlisted action subject to a coordinated review. To date, no objections have been received. At the time of that meeting, there were several comments provided by this board that requested that the applicant go back to the drawing board and take a look at, as was discussed, the grade and how the proposal sits in the existing grade against the existing residential neighborhood. And so that is what is before the board this evening. Really, the applicant is trying to gauge your interest in the proposal at this current juncture. There will be a more complete submission made at a future meeting, as was touched on. So there are a lot of comments, at least from my perspective, and the planning department's role in this, that remain, but will be addressed as part of a future submission, right? And as was noted, this was circulated to the Dutchess County Planning Department. They will require also another circulation, but again, this was really a sort of an interim submission. There were some items addressed, largely the layout, the scale, addressing how it sits in with the existing residential neighborhood.
Yep.
We also felt at a staff level that it was an appropriate time to bring in our traffic consultant, the town's traffic consultant, JMC. So Mark Petraro did review this at this point. We are going to be requesting some additional information there. I'll let him talk to that. And it was obviously on and reviewed, or circulated and reviewed to Site Civil, so Andy will be able to provide comments on behalf of CPL. So staff is recommending that the board discuss the application at this point with the applicant. If you have feedback or concerns about, anything related to the layout and against how it sits against the existing residential neighborhood, parking, we're still going to be working through, but they are accounting for some visitor parking. They're also contemplating EV parking. Some of the layout was dictated by required emergency access, so there might be some wiggle room for adjusting if you have concerns or comments related to layout, but also this would be the time to provide comments on architectural, since we're so early in this process. If you would like to see anything changed or adjusted, I would provide those comments at this point. So I'm just recommending that the board at this point would discuss the application and defer action with comments.
Great, thanks, Kristen. Yeah, I think last time we weren't too crazy about the darkness of the architecture, and you guys have changed that, so a little bit, so we'll see how the board feels at this point. Andy?
Sure. So I'll start off by saying, I think the grading changes are much better, than what it was last time. We continue to have some comments about stormwater. A stormwater pollution prevention plan will be required. Plans are showing some removal of existing improvements on the Vassar property adjacent to the site. And there's also what appears to be a drainage swale or something that you might be discharging into. So we'll need some coordination with Vassar, and I actually think maybe a site visit to look at that and just kind of make sure everybody's on the same page is probably a good idea. Lighting just needs some updates just to make sure we're complying with this IES standards. There's probably a guide rail going to be required along the access road. And then we had just a bunch of detailed comments about utilities, and some grading erosion stem controls. So, work to do, but, you know, I think it's on the right track.
All right, thank you. And as Kristen said, Mark reviewed it for traffic, so Mark, you want to speak up on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we did look over the application and we had some comments. Obviously, Manchester Road is Route 55 and it's under the jurisdiction of Interstate DOT. So definitely would be good to start discussions with the state to discuss this development. I am asking to maybe just review. I know there was some input from the fire department as to the access from 55, but it should at least be reviewed about having a single point of access on 55 instead of having the two separate one-ways. Providing a site distance analysis for all the site access locations based on AASHTO requirements should be provided. Traffic study should be conducted for the Spy Hill Route 55 intersection as well as the site access locations. There will be additional left turns added and potential U-turns on the Manchester Road intersection with Spy Hill, so that should, you know, evaluate those impacts there. There's a bunch of other comments that I had, but I won't go into too much detail. But basically, the current access that that's shown on the plans connecting to Spy Hill essentially kind of makes it into a four-way intersection with Spy Hill there, and it's a large intersection. I'm just having to look at to see whether or not that intersection should have some sort of controls on it, and if there's other items that should be done with that intersection based on what the latest MUTCD states as far as the controls of that location. You know, obviously sidewalks, this is a discussion, you know, pedestrian circulation through the site. Some of it seems to direct people to use some of the, you know, vehicular pathways to get to different parts of the property. Maybe there's an ability to provide at least short pedestrian crossings across a vehicular path or additional sidewalks was one of my other comments there. But, you know, happy to go through some of the other ones, but I just tried to give an overview of what I have in my letter.
All right, thanks, Mark. Yeah, I could see this being a draw perhaps for some off-campus Vassar students, which means, you know, they'll try to walk or bike over there. Who knows? Let's see. At this point, it's not a public hearing, so I'm gonna go around for comments. Start with Steve this time.
Yeah, I know Mark had commented on the entrances and that. I would add one other comment, another option, in addition to having the entrance and exit in one, but always keeping that other one as a second entrance, just in case anything backs up on 55 there. So that's just my added comment.
All right. And,
Nothing.
Sharon, anything? Rocco?
I've got a question, I guess. Just so I'm clear, the apartment buildings do not have any elevators in them? It's only stairs?
Three-story walk-up, really kind
Okay.
of 2.5, but it's walk-up.
Okay, and there's no basement in those from what I can? Okay, all right, yeah, outside of that, I mean, there's lots of other comments, which I agree with also.
All right, Nicole?
Nicole, before you speak, I apologize. Steve, can you clarify what you meant by the other ingress off of 55?
Yeah, today you have the ingress on the west side, and I think Mark's recommendation is the middle one, make it a two-way there, in and out.
Mm-hmm.
My only other thought is I like that the two-way in and out in the middle, but always keep the other one on the west side, just in case that one gets backed up. I always like two entrances into a development that has that much activity.
Okay, I just wanted to confirm I heard that correctly. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I thought I heard.
Thank you, Steve. Just so you know, from my perspective, in working with New York State DOT, they, you know, try to look at site access management. So my comment was more related to consolidating the two driveways to just one two-way driveway. If you want to keep one open for emergency services, I'm obviously more willing to do that, but I'm just trying to think of comments DOT might weigh in on aspect of it, but that your comments noted.
Mark, which of the two of those driveways would you think would be better to make into a two-way entrance? Because the one in the, closer to the intersection, one of my concerns is that people are gonna try to jump over to the left lane and make a U-turn.
Yeah,
Right.
so ideally
is
you would
close,
want it
yeah.
to be the furthest point away, so the western one would probably be the most ideal. Because, you're trying to provide greater distance for that potential of a weave of someone going over to use that left turn lane or essentially make a U-turn there. But the furthest west would probably be ideal. I know the state has standards as far as driveway locations, particularly as related to the intersections, so that can be looked at as well.
Yeah, I mean, sure, at rush hour, there could be stacking there that could cause an issue there. So that,
Yeah, our only concern with making that westerly drive a two-way drive is it will pretty much eliminate our only location for stormwater retention. It's not the end of the world.
Well, the other consideration that could be done, and it would have to be looked at with the traffic study, is if you just make it an entrance drive and you have everyone go out through Spy Hill to make their turns onto 55, essentially, it would eliminate that potential of a weave condition that might be there. But, all these things are just ideas. I'll give you, you can look into them and see, but those are
you have to
some of
weigh
the things you can think of.
Yeah, you have to weigh what DOT is saying.
Absolutely,
Versus versus what the neighbors are saying there too.
The neighbors are not gonna want all those vehicles coming out onto Spy Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things to weigh in, yep.
Even though it makes plenty of sense.
Even though nobody's taking a left out of that new road, or a right, to go up into Spy Hill, it's a dead end. It's
Yeah.
still that little bit of extra traffic.
Correct.
It's certainly gonna be,
Coming out.
drive some concerns and complaints.
For sure. All right, let's see.
Sorry, Nicole.
It's okay, no, it's fine.
Go ahead.
Lighting, obviously, we want that to be less than 3,000 Kelvin, right? We want any lighting, to be downlit. As far as landscaping is concerned, you're just doing like the trees around, or you're not doing like any I don't know, smaller landscaping, like maybe in like the parking lot or anything like that. I just feel like landscaping is a little lacking on this. I don't know why I feel that way.
Well, essentially, the dark green
Yeah.
are new trees. The
Yeah,
light
I
green
know,
are
I know
existing.
the property right now is very kind of desolate, there's really not a lot of, trees
It's
on,
all
like,
o- yeah, it's
the
kinda open.
frontage part, yeah, it's very like dry and desolate, there's not a lot, so you are adding more, I don't know, I feel like maybe a little bit more, like, especially in like, I don't know, the parking lot maybe, and, I don't know, we can talk about that. I just wanna reiterate what the fire department had noted about any access roads should meet the 2020 fire code. So, let's see what else, yeah, you have some zoning variances that you'll have to go through. Again, with the community building, it's just gonna be male, and it's just gonna be like open space for anyone that lives there, is that what you said?
It'd be for the residents, yes.
Okay, so, but there's like, not gonna be a gym in there, there's not gonna be like stuff like that, or just,
Might be some gym equipment, I don't know.
I think there might have been planned for a small fitness room, maybe a yoga area. There's a nice
Okay.
deck on the side that could be used for yoga, so.
okay. And then, this wasn't my idea, and I'm surprised that Mark didn't, say something about it, but, there was a concern about the connectivity between, like, maybe like the townhouses, for instance, down to, the, community, area, and then as well as the, apartments up to like maybe the community area. There seems to be like, a lack of sidewalks or walking paths, so maybe that's something that you can kind of look into. We just want it to kind of flow a little bit better than it does currently.
Yeah, there's some topography there to deal with, but,
Yeah,
Right, we
of course.
essentially, from those 8 townhouses, you'll have to cross the road. The
Yeah.
sidewalk in front of the
Do you
community
have
building is at
do you have a
grade.
sidewalk, crosswalk right there?
We could certainly, identify a crosswalk, but,
Okay, yeah, that would be great, and.
There isn't a lot of space in front of the townhouses to run another sidewalk parallel.
Okay.
So the idea was you cross over to the community building, and there now you're tied into the circulation of the
Yeah,
site.
I guess we just don't want, like, the people that live there to, have to like walk on the grass to try and get to where they wanna go. We want it to be very clear how to get there, go through the crosswalk, go on the sidewalk, get to
Yep.
where you need to be.
Yep.
That's all. And that's all I have, thanks.
sounds good. All right, Ben?
I only see room here for one trash enclosure.
The,
What about the townhouses, where do they put their trash?
the townhouses will have regular residential garbage and recycling containers that will be stored in their garage.
Oh,
So we'll have,
and,
okay,
huh?
go ahead.
And snow, what are we doing with snow?
Well, we will identify snow storage areas. Essentially, we'll have to see whether or not we've got to widen any of these roads, which might impact that, but, we will identify snow storage. where we
Okay.
push it.
All right, and I like what Mark said about the short crosswalks here, and this, between the townhouses and the apartments. In the parking lot. Okay, that's it.
All right, thanks, Ben. Peter?
On the site zoning plan, you have 520 feet of road frontage. Is that Spy Hill and Route 55 combined?
Yes, that's both, that's both Manchester and Spy Hill.
Okay, do you know how many feet of road frontage you have on Route 55?
Not off the top of my head, no, but we can get that information.
The penthouse apartments, you have 2 of those in each of the apartment buildings? Is that the way they're structured?
Correct.
Okay. There's a section in the environmental assessment form way toward the end that addresses community character. And I'm concerned, with a 3-story apartment building adjacent to a long-established, single-family residential neighborhood. I think it's, there are 3 stories. I think if you could eliminate those 4 penthouse apartments and bring those buildings down to 2 stories, would bring it more in conformity with the existing neighborhood. And again, my concern there is, again, dealing with community character. And I think you would have a problem with that environmental assessment form, because I don't think it is conforming. Also, for the same reason, I have a problem, with the entry and exit from Sky Point Drive onto Spy Hill. Again, I believe that is invasive. I don't think we've ever done that. Where you have an exit entrance onto an existing, established, single-family residential neighborhood. When you have plenty of road frontage on Route 55, it's somewhere you can find it in your design plan. I would suggest that you do that, eliminate that access onto Spy Hill Drive and find a way to limit it to Route 55. That's all I have.
Thanks, Peter. My 2 cents, at least, I'm glad you're talking about reaching out to the neighbors with the 3 councilmen, that's good. I don't know if you had any bike racks particularly planned for it, but,
Yeah, that'll be further detail.
if you had that as a concern, because as I was saying, maybe some Vassar students or grad students. One thing with the stairs that go next to the clubhouse, there's a way for bikes to, when you build the stairs, to have like a little ramp, so you can just roll your bike up as you walk up the stairs, so that's something to consider.
Okay.
In this project, I've seen that in a few places. Let's see. And there's a lot of variances, so I guess as Peter alluded to, maybe those 4 less units bring those front two buildings down as a consideration. But I don't know what's financially viable either, but you gotta consider all that.
Since we're in it
And the
now,
town-
I would just like to
And the
jump.
town board's gotta ultimately decide on the
Yeah,
zoning.
they do, but since we're in it now, I just wanna bring up, because it's as relevant now as it will be in a month or two from now. All of the county planning office actually provided comments, and I'm just reading, I mean, I know that these were provided to the board, but their last sentence actually says that we suggest that the curb cut be removed and
Yeah.
that all site exits happen from Spy Hill Road.
Yeah.
So, there's definitely a balancing act that's going to need to take place between emergency access, balancing existing neighborhood, and I,
Well, I vote in favor of the existing neighborhood, okay, in
Right.
spite of what the county has to say.
I'm
That's
not
their
here to
opinion.
argue, I'm just stating a fact, and
Well,
also
I'm
they
not
will,
arguing.
they
I'm
will
just
have
giving you my
to,
opinion.
coordinate with Dutchess, the DOT as well. So, I think we're gonna have to get some input offline, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, DOT has to be the big,
And they're gonna say that they want to see the traffic at the signalized intersection, because that's
Yes.
really what's built for, that's why it's there. But it'll be an interesting conversation, and we're gonna have to keep working on it.
Absolutely.
And as far as architecture, I think the new architecture you come up with looks good. Personally, I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything about it at this juncture, but doesn't have any concerns. It's more muted stone and
I think it looks good.
inside.
Thank you.
Other than, as we discussed, perhaps one less story on the front buildings, but that is closer down. All right,
I move the planning board to for further action on this application pending establishment of lead agency and direct the applicant to respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, included but not limited to 1 through 13.
Second.
moved and seconded, call the question, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes 7-0. Well, you got some comments, and I think a lot hinges on DOT as we discussed.
Thank you very much.
This traffic. Next up, Mayor's College is building a track. Welcome, guys.
You can pull up a chair if you'd like.
Thanks for.
Oh, you got one? Oh, okay. Oh,
Right,
it's-
Thanks for hanging in there.
The first one, and vice president gives me the comfortable chair.
Doing the work.
Good evening, John.
So,
Jeff.
Jeff Brackett, Executive Vice President. I'll just say a few words by introduction and then let these gentlemen to my left introduce themselves formally and go through the materials. First of all, just wanted to say it's a pleasure to be back in front of the board. Appreciate all your expertise and feedback through the years. We are wrapping up Dyson Center, so we'd like to, we'll obviously send information about that, but we're planning a ribbon cutting in the fall, so thank you for your feedback on that project. And this project is really the next in line in terms of what we hope to be able to accomplish. As an institution, we think that the work that we're doing under the leadership of Kevin Wyman, our current president, on our strategic plan to get us really to 2030 and be competitive in that private college environment and drive the kinds of success for the college and for the community is front and center in all of our planning. And the feedback that we get from you historically has been incredibly valuable, and it is in the short term already bearing fruit for us as we think about this project. And the final gloss I'll say is that in everything that we do, we really try to drive forward success for the college and for the region. It's in our mission. Community and engagement with the community is front and center with what we do, and I think this project is going to be able to provide that critical element of our mission as we move forward. So thank you. I'll hand it over to Justin next to go through the details.
Okay, I'm just gonna do a short introduction to the project and then turn it over to John for the engineering discussion. The current conditions on the site, if you did your site walkthrough, you can see it's just a natural turf athletic field, and it is not suitable for our Division I athletic programs, specifically the running track. The restricted use, we don't have lights, so we're restricted to daytime use and weather conditions. This is the project is an 8-lane NCAA running track with a field turf middle and lighted at night. The track events that we would host are those listed there. You can see steeplechase, broad jump, triple jump, pole vault, etc. And the lighting would be for nighttime use. This would mitigate a lot of the off-site travel that our students are doing now, and we'd increase our capacity, you can see in that chart, for varsity athletics, club athletics, intramural programs, and student groups. So we're really trying to serve the campus community. At that, I'll turn it over to John to do a quick engineering update.
Thank you. For the record, my name is John Andrews with Rhodey, Soika and Andrews. For a change, I didn't have the heavy lifting. You'll note they're on Zoom with us. There are representatives of Gale Engineering. They are the field experts. They are the ones that designed the field, laid out the field, and are handling the field elements. I'm kind of the local color guy. Just so you know, this is on the north end of Marist College. It's behind North Campus Housing. It's 2 levels below Marist College. Right immediately behind North Campus Housing, there's an existing parking facility. You go down 1 level, as Justin indicated, there's an existing turf field. And what's oftentimes missed, there is a women's softball field that is fully used by our softball program, which is again an NCAA Division I athletic program that's used on a fairly regular basis. That whole plateau area is above the railroad tracks. It's probably 20 to 30 foot above the tracks that run along the river. If you've been out there, you'll notice it's fenced. The fence line is not necessarily our property line. Our property line kind of meanders there. But what we have proposed is to take that existing turf field, which is used now by intramurals, practice squads, the whole 9 yards. It is a fairly active facility, and we're going to take that natural turf field and create an 8-lane NCAA Division I competition level track and field. That field is going to be lighted. It is going to be lighted with competition level lighting, and there are better people to speak to that than I. We're going to take a small portion of the parking lot that's immediately to the south and combine that with the track facility. To be blunt, we do not own the entire striped parking lot at the south end. It actually falls on lands owned by the Joint City-Town Water Commission. But for years, historically, we've kind of used it, and it's actually separated from the water facility by a natural drainage channel. So they can't get to us, we can't get to them, so to speak. The proposal here is, if you're familiar, there's that existing rock slope that separates this natural turf field from the parking lot. We're going to kind of pare that slope back and give us some additional room. We're going to improve the slope. You'll see on the drawings, it's shown as a retaining wall. In all likelihood, it might simply be, we'll cut the rock wall back until it's stable, and then we'll put a face on it. Not necessarily to retain it, but to give it the Marist College wall look. As you all know, our college campus has a very unique wall structure, and we'd like to bring that down to this level because it kind of frames what's above it, those awesome buildings that are the North Campus Housing.
Do you know about how high that would be there?
It's going to vary somewhere between 18 and 22 feet. We haven't finalized the design yet, but it's going to be somewhere in that range. It depends on how, we just finished our borings and we have fairly competent rocks, so we're working our way through that. Right. The softball field is going to remain in full operation. We're going to build access to that into the site plan. We're going to restripe the parking lot to make it more efficient. We have a drainage discharge, which other people will go into more detail, that goes onto the city-town commission property. We have reached out to them. We've we haven't got an answer back. I don't know whether you have, Kristen, but we've reached out several times to keep that moving. And other than that, we're basically repurposing to a higher level an existing, very highly used facility.
All right. Sounds pretty straightforward.
We wanted to address some of the comments we got, knowing that there's a lot of comments already out there. Because we have Gale Engineering on the line here, I thought I'd give them an opportunity to talk about a few things. One of them was the parking discussion, and we have many times come here and had concerns about our parking. So we recently done an audit of utilization. These are the numbers we have. Presently, we have an inventory of 2,557 parking spaces, and when the Dyson Center is complete, it'll go up by 100 to 2,657. Our audit shows that during our peak business time, with the top of the classes, in the middle of the day, we have about a 70% utilization. Weekends, obviously much less, and during the summer, only 20%. So we have a 30% parking capacity that is not used during the peak times. So we do not think there is a current need to replace the approximately, I say 30 here, I think it's less than that, spaces that will be lost when we develop this project. The other issue that was raised, I know I'm cherry picking from the comments, was about access for buses. And we're pointing out this parking lot right here by Fontaine Hall would be where we would have athletes dropped off for buses. Oops, let me go back up. Just have trouble reading my thing. We anticipate fewer than 5 track and field events, and they're smaller events. We host much larger events for basketball, lacrosse, etc. So we don't believe this will be a large impact on our ability to manage the campus. And parking is always managed very well by our Office of Safety and Security. I'm going to turn it over to Gale Engineering, Ryan Thackeray, I believe, or Peter Spanos, to talk about the microplastic migration, which was a concern we heard.
Yes, thank you, Justin. So my name is Peter Spanos. I'm a project manager and engineer with Gale Engineering, and this slide here that we have put up is for to discuss any type of mitigating infill migration. So the way these synthetic turf fields work with infill, the ones you're most familiar with, is that black crumb rubber, and it's over a sand layer. That's what they call the mitigating the infill migration. What is different, and kind of we have a built-in kind of triple redundancy in our design here, is that the synthetic turf field by design is all vertical draining. So it's all going through vertically through the carpet. There's through the stone layer. There's a filter fabric there as well, a geotextile fabric. So the infill and the crumb rubber that stays on top of the sand, they're different sizes, and it doesn't go vertically. As during a flashy rain event, there is a small percentage of crumb rubber, depending on the shape of it. If it's more flatter, that might migrate a little bit. Now, we're not talking it's migrating from the middle of the field. We're talking it'd be migrating from the edge where the first lane line is in the track. It migrates until it would get fully saturated with the rain, and then it would, because it's denser than and has a higher specific gravity, it sinks. It doesn't float. Along the perimeter inside edge of this track lane line, in between the track and the synthetic turf, we have an inline trench drain at multiple locations, about 8 locations. There are sumps. Catch basin sumps with filter basket inserts. So any type of infill that would migrate along that edge would follow the trench drain channel and get trapped into the sump and into these baskets that they can pop them out, and they can scoop them back out and put the infill back on the turf field. As the third redundancy, all this subsurface drainage and trench drainage goes into an outlet control structure that you see here at the bottom of the screen. It is controlled by a standpipe, an outlet pipe, and it also has a sump in it. So any on the limited occurrence that crumb rubber might migrate into the system, it's going to stay in the sump of this channel. It's not going to float up and go through the standpipe to go out to the field. So because of these three kind of scenarios, the vertical drainage, the trench drains with the built-in baskets, and the outlet control structure with the sump and the standpipe, we anticipate little to none infill migration on these fields. There's also one comment that can be made about athletes tracking the crumb rubber off them on their cleats. The benefit with having the track and field is by the time they're getting off the turf, they are walking and stomping on the track itself. So the crumb rubber stays on the track, and then can get if it accumulates, it can get brushed back into the field. So that's that comment. Justin, if you want to go to the next one or comment on the next one.
Yeah, so Peter, you could also talk about the lighting.
Sure. So we also have a representative from Musco Lighting that can get into more detail if need be, but I'll go over just briefly on it. What you see here on the bottom left is the progression of the generation and of athletic lighting. What we are proposing is the latest technology that Musco has. It's a fully shielded LED technology. And is the one on the far right. You can see, very, very little glare compared to the other ones. For comparison, what Maris currently has at Tennis Stadium is a couple generations back. It's somewhere in the midst of pole number 3 and number 4, right in that range. So you can see the drastic difference in how technology has evolved over the years. The next slide, please. So we show this, and this is directly from Musco as well. It's a little bit, I like it because it's kind of counterintuitive to what you're thinking. The way you mitigate spill from lights, especially from athletic fields, is you got to go higher. The shorter the pole, the more poles you have, obviously. But the light kind of skips like tossing a rock or a pebble across a pond until it gets to the other side. The higher you go, you can fixate and aim the lighting directly on the field and really cut off any type of spill. It's kind of drastic. And so the next slide just shows some examples of what it would be. So this is the before and after of what it would look like for a recent project. And you can see how the lighting levels just, kind of die out right after the playing area. We had to adjust this on some areas because there were some complaints about the light cutoff being too much, and the pedestrians and the spectators not being able to safely navigate the walkways when they would leave a sporting event. So this is after it got tweaked a little bit to provide more lighting on the walkways. But you can see how it's drastic. This here is from the Naval Academy. The Naval Academy has a row of about 5 athletic fields. 3 of them are synthetic, 2 of them are natural grass, but they're right on the river there, right on the water. And you can see here with the lighting and the cutoff from the water side. So it's pretty, the new technology from Musco is pretty drastic, and it's leaps and bounds from what it was even 5-10 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I think that's the end of our presentation.
I mean, just one lighting comment that comes up is since you're right along the Metro North tracks there, I don't know if you've contacted Metro North, you don't want the lights shining in an engineer's eye as they're driving the train. So, something to think about. All right, Kristen?
Thank you. The application's on for seeker review for a type 1 action, subject to a coordinated review. It's also on for coastal consistency review and site plan review. I had, a lot of the comments, I know will be actively being worked on and addressed by the time of your next submission, at least from a planning department perspective. I appreciate the information about the field turf, and also lighting. At this point, staff's recommending, that the planning board declare their intent to be lead agency, and also defer action with comments this evening. I did, just because you did just bring it up, Mr. Chairman, planning staff actually contacted Metro North and circulated the application to them. We got 2 individuals to include on that consultation. We have yet to receive any comments.
Okay, thanks.
Kristen, if I may, is that something that you can share with us, so perhaps it might be easier for us to directly reach out to them as well?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Andy?
Sure. I'll just note that we did have a pre-application meeting with the team, and I feel like they've started to address many of those comments prior to even making the application, so I thought that was very useful. One of the comments was actually about the lighting, so I appreciate them looking into that. And I noted in the plans that there's also a plan to do a reduced power level during non-competition events. Is that still
Yes.
on the table?
Yeah, 2
Okay.
levels of power.
Okay, so that's another mitigating factor in addition to this, to the shielding that you mentioned. I think that's a good point. You mentioned about the bus drop-off. Now, just to clarify, is the buses that I assume would drive down to the fields, drop off the kids, and then park at Fontaine, or the athletes would actually have to walk from Fontaine
They would
down
walk
to the
from
track?
Fontaine down, unless they had a mobility issue. The athletes
Okay.
would be dropped off at Fontaine.
Okay, so that raises a question for me about pedestrian access. Is there, I didn't happen to notice, are there walkways, or would they have to follow the
There's an existing
driveway?
sidewalk that goes down there.
Okay,
It's not a good one, but there's a sidewalk.
And typically speaking, when there is an event such as that, when there are students being dropped off, security will close off that road that runs from the main road down to the field. They limit student activity and other things, because those are basically long-term parking lots down that way, where students don't pull them in and out on a regular basis. So there is a very much a security control environment when there is an activity.
okay, all right, great. Let's see, I did have a couple questions about, things like drinking fountains and restrooms, like where would the athletes, where would you direct the athletes to use restroom facilities? Since you don't have them on site at this time, which facilities would they be directed to?
So those are very good comments, and we're really thinking through a solution to that. We haven't developed it completely yet, but certainly in the next few weeks, we're gonna have something.
Okay, all right, great. And then just the last thing, we had some comments about the SWIP when we first talked, and there was a couple of questions that came up during the review that I just want to make sure we're clear on in terms of the runoff reduction requirement, and maybe it's worth another offline call just to kind of make sure we're clear on.
I'd appreciate
what
that, yeah.
That would be fine.
Yeah.
We're in the process of responding to your comments now. Much to Christian's chagrin, I'm probably suspecting we're going to make a resubmission on Monday. So,
Okay. All right, so,
I already knew.
so call me.
Jeff's got us on a tight timeline, so.
yeah, he wasn't kidding that we needed an easy chair.
So call me tomorrow.
But as you know, we won't be able to make a secret determination.
Right, we got that.
Understood.
We got that,
Next
yeah.
month, right? Just for the record,
Yeah,
it's not enough time.
the timeline is short.
Yeah. So they can come back and tell us talk about what you've updated, but we can't make any decisions.
Like move the P forward a little bit.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
they need a full 30 days, I guess, for
Yes.
lead agency. All right, let's go around for comments. Peter?
Just 2 quick comments. One is, obviously, we could be concerned about the drainage, because synthetic surface. I also wanted to ask the town engineer if you have reviewed the mitigation of the infill migration, and do you feel comfortable?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that.
Thank you.
Ben?
I like this, it's a nice field. Couple things I'm thinking about. First, there's no viewing stands, I see. Also, typically with sporting events, I know pros anyhow, there's an ambulance on standby. I don't see any room for something like that, or a building for equipment, or any kind of film crew. Because I'm sure you're gonna wanna film things that are going on there so the athletes can look back and see what happened.
There is, in the set of drawings, there was an emergency access provision. The ambulance go to the far side, the riverside. We'll detail that more in our next submission. There is an existing facility down there where we use for storage and other things that'll be maintained. Believe it or not, Marist trucks in a lot of their stuff and trucks it back out when the event is over. And then the last thing is, the same thing occurs with the, a lot of times with the softball event, we bring in portable bleachers and remove them. So that's why we're gonna be peeling that slope back, sir, so that it gives us some room to bring in, viewing, ultimately.
Over here.
On the side, where the wall will be. So we kind of have thought about these things, and it's still a bit of a work in progress in terms of fine tuning some of those details, but we have tried to integrate them into the design.
Okay, and the filming too, right? Okay.
That was the first thing athletics asked for.
Sure.
Thanks, Ben. Let's see, Steve?
No additional comment.
And Sharon?
Yeah, how far away is the bus drop-off to where the students have to walk down?
It's up the hill.
Let's see here.
And it's a hill too.
It's their warm-up.
It's their warm-up to come down.
They are track athletes after all.
Yeah, it's a short distance, but it's a big drop, so
If
it's
I
like a
could just-
20-foot drop.
If I could just comment on that, I was at a track meet the other day, and it was one of those absolutely miserable days, and all of the students, athletes, between their events, were in the buses. So if the buses are on the other side of, further away, you might just, I know there's a parking lot there, maybe that's a good place to, on those days, they're gonna wanna be in the buses when it's 35 degrees and they're wearing almost nothing and it's raining.
And the other question I have is, where do the spectators park?
They'll use existing, much like we do for events on campus. For spectators, for track events, much smaller number than we currently accommodate for our basketball games, for example. So McCann will have up to 3,000 people in the McCann Arena. So we reallocate parking on campus to ensure that we have requisite space available.
Okay.
And you have little shuttle buses and stuff.
Yes, indeed, yeah.
And if you've ever been on Marist, an event, you've had some discussions about signage. Not only is there signage, usually Marist has a security officer, an actual person there to give you the appropriate direction. So it's a very hands-on management program.
And they're keeping the softball field as far as I know.
Yes, that's very good.
As long as there's no home runs into the track.
Hornback championships to win.
All right, Rocco?
Yes, I see that this is, you're talking about this as field and track events, but in the center portion, you do have a requirement to have fields there for what looks like a soccer, a lacrosse, and maybe some other sports. Would this be the primary spot where those sports will be played, or if so, there might be some other questions regarding that?
Yes, so excellent point. This is primarily will be used as a practice field, because right now, there are two issues that we're trying to address specifically in relation to that. One is as an unfinished surface, which is currently used by athletes, it's not very effective. It's a little bit dangerous for some sports because it's just not up to, especially to D1 standards. The second item of interest is that Tenney Stadium is really the only facility for, we have 23 D1 sports many of whom use the tennis stadium. So the utilization for that goes well into the evening, starting early in the morning. And this facility will be used for practice for some of those other sports to address those concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, and, Nicole.
And just to piggyback that, if you are going to be playing other sports on this particular field, would you then want to add some type of fencing along the waterway there?
Do we want to address that?
Along the
Train.
railroad tracks over here?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an
Yeah.
existing fence that will remain as far as that.
How high is that?
I think it's 6 foot right now.
Yeah.
6 foot, okay.
And we will be modifying the fencing, because the way the field is, on the east side, at the base of the rock wall, it'll basically hit grade. As you move across towards the river, there's going to be a short retaining wall on the river side, about 30 inches. The reason for that is we've got to accommodate the track and field events.
Right.
So not only will there be a dividing line, there will be a fence, and I'm not sure whether it's on top of the retaining wall or immediately after it. So we have an obligation with Metro North to maintain a fence along that.
Yeah,
common
I'm
property line.
just thinking, like, for instance, if you had lacrosse practice on that field, and a stray went that way.
Yeah.
You know, so
As the
I'm
train
think-
was coming.
Like if
Yeah,
I was
I'm
playing.
You can kind of see
Like
the
if I were
netting.
kicking a soccer ball.
Some type of
Yeah.
protection there.
You can see this 20-foot netting for the lacrosse. Normally,
Oh,
those shots are thrown north-south.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
here
if
and
you're-
here, it's faint, but you can kind of see
If
it.
you're familiar with Tenny Stadium, we have a similar arrangement. There are lacrosse balls, because that's right in the middle of campus.
Right.
So, in this case, we'll have the similar setup, so that when you have sports that result in errant throws or balls, they'll be kept inside the playing field, because the last thing you want to do is hit a track athlete while
Right.
they're running by.
Or a
So-
train.
Softball player.
Yeah, so, yes,
Okay.
we understand, and that's been accommodated in the design.
All right, great.
Great.
Thank you.
Right, and most of the things have been covered. We talked about the lighting, retaining walls. I guess my concern was the the bleachers Ben brought up. I've been to many high school and college track events, and you've never been at night, so I guess you're planning to light for other events. The bathrooms are a big thing. Have a place to do that. There's a lot of trees there, but you might want something more formal.
We'll pretend we didn't hear that, Kristen, on your behalf.
Please disregard them. And the other thing, I'm glad he explained the lighting pretty well, because, every time there's something along the river, you worry about what's on the other side of the river. There's houses over there overlooking, and any sound can travel along the water, or if you have a PA system, or lighting spillage as well, so it sounds like it's fairly confined for lighting, but,
Yeah, the audio, is that also directed?
So we don't plan to have a PA system,
Oh, you don't?
right, at this point.
Okay.
Your details showed one though, so,
Did?
yeah,
Oh,
On the scoreboard?
yeah,
Well, that's for like horns for,
okay, not
not
any
we're not playing
audio.
rock music or anything.
Okay.
How do you call people for the
Never
next
know.
event? How do you call people for the next event?
Don't know that answer, I'll have to.
Okay, that might be
look
a
into it,
PA system,
yeah.
'cause it's,
yeah, usually what you do. And, last question, is you planning to, remove those old wooden stairs going down, or?
I missed that, but the answer is definitely. We're going to actually match, if you've ever come down from North Campus Housing down to the parking lot, we built a beautiful set of concrete stairs. We're gonna mirror that same set of stairs down to the next level. So
Okay.
it will be concrete all the way down, and we'll probably connect the two with a crosswalk.
Sounds good. All right, thanks.
Okay. I move the planning board declare its intent to be lead agency to coordinate the environmental review of a proposed project as a type 1 action, and authorize the planning department circulation of a notice of said intent, copy of the EAF, and a copy of the application to the identified interested and involved agencies.
Second. Moved and seconded for lead agency. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
I move the planning board defer further action on this application and direct the applicant to respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies included but not limited to the following 1 through 13.
Second.
And that includes all the comments tonight. Moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank
all.
you very much.
Thanks, guys. Good luck with the project. We'll see you back shortly, apparently. All right. Getting near the end. Spark Car Wash. Thanks for your patience. So was that. Public hearings, you never know how long they're gonna go. All right, ready for break? We'll push on through here.
That one, you might have to flip the switch on, I'm not sure if it's on, yeah. It's on the actual
On the mic
microphone,
itself.
yeah, and it
Yeah, that's
takes,
the one, so if you walk over there, that's the portable one.
it takes 1 second to warm up. Wait, now try it again.
Is that better?
Yep,
It is.
now it's on.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jennifer Porter. I'm the attorney for the applicant Spark Car Wash LLC, and we're here this evening for our introduction to our proposed car wash facility to be located specifically at 826 Dutchess Turnpike, which is at the intersection of Route 44 and DeGarmo Road. This site is located within the highway business zone where the proposed car wash use is a specially permitted use, and we will this evening be giving you an overview in connection with our application. As I mentioned, this is our first appearance, so what we would like to do, recognizing the late hour of the evening, is briefly give you an overview of our proposed project. We have several representatives from our project team with us this evening that intend to give you just some main points with respect to our application. We have first Mr. Bob Valerio, who is the VP of Store Development for Spark Car Wash, and so he's here to really tell you about who Spark is, because we're new to this particular area and frankly embarking upon specific development initiatives within this region. He's going to also speak to you about showing you, essentially the existing site features as well as really an overview in terms of our renderings of what's proposed. We've also brought with us our site engineer, Tung To Lam, from Bowler Engineering, as well as our traffic engineer, Demi Prassis from Stonefield Engineering, to give you an overview with respect to their roles for the project in terms of site engineering and the overall site layout, as well as, again, a brief overview in terms of the traffic analysis that was performed. We did have several excellent pre-application meetings with staff from the town, and have incorporated some of the feedback that we received at those meetings into the design. We look forward to a continued dialogue with the board as well as town staff and all of the consultants and agencies involved as we embark upon this process. And so to kick it off, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Valerio.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry. My name is Bob Valerio. I am the Vice President of Store Development for Spark Car Wash. And I thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to tell you a little bit about us and how and what we do. We operate a very modernized, high-tech car wash. It's transitioned the business from what you may be accustomed to, where you will pull up to a car wash, someone will greet you, you'll get out of your car, you'll walk through the tunnel, you'll pay, go outside, then they'll take the car inside, they'll vacuum, it'll go through, then there'll be an army of people who will come and tend your car, and eventually you'll get it back. We don't do that. What we do basically is you would pull up onto the lot. There would be someone there to take you through the pay station. So we have two means by which to access the property. One for members, because we are member-driven in most cases, where you would simply pull up we have license plate readers that would see that you are a member, open up the gate, and around you come and go towards the entrance of the tunnel. There, someone will guide you into the space so that you will stay in your car, remain in your car, and go through the tunnel itself, get it fully cleaned and dried, and then exit. And at exiting, you have two choices. You can either drive off, or you can use our vacuum park. And our vacuum park basically offers free vacuums and microfiber towels and cleansers and things of this nature for you to use, should you choose to clean your windows and dry off the, what little water's left, etc. So it's a much more modern, high-tech process. It's been something that has been transitioning through the country, started back in 1971, actually in Louisiana, where this first started, and has worked its way throughout the country, and basically coming into the Northeast at this point. Our company started in 2018. Since that time, we've opened up 5 washes. We currently have 3 under construction, one of which is in Rockland County, which is our first entrance into the Hudson Valley, if you would. But we also have contracted for properties in Middletown, New York, Newburgh, New York, Kingston, and as well as here. We employ basically 10 to 12 people. We run 2 shifts. Our hours of operation are from 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening, and it's 7 days a week. We don't have heavy truck traffic at all on our property. Our chemicals and cleansers all come in Sprinter vans in 55-gallon drums. So when the supply is low, they'll come replenish and go. What else can I?
I think our particular interest in this location.
Yeah, we've taken a look at, basically the entire area, and felt like this would be a great opportunity for us to provide a service to the public. It serves currently as a car wash in some respects, so we thought we'd like to take that and take it to the new level.
Great. And then could you also walk the board through the proposed renderings that we have?
Sure, if I may get up.
Yeah, take that portable mic with you.
I will. Thank you.
So that way it stays on the record.
Okay, thank you. So this picture over here to my right is what's existing today. So it's basically what you call sprayer booths. You pull up and you pay your dollars and you can wash your car off, etc. And then these pods here are vacuums that you would pull up as you would normally put your money in and pay. We're going to transition that from that to this, where now you can enter, come through the pay stations, and then come out and around, and then you have a choice of vacuum stalls, if you so choose, or you could actually exit the property as well. So this is the transition we're forming. This is an example of how this works. So you could see, for example, off of Degamo, you would come in, queue up, the pay stations are here. The innermost line is for non-members, because we do obviously offer a full service for non-members. This would be for members, and then it would come through the tunnel and have a choice of either using the vacuum stalls or exiting. The time between basically from about here, when you get through, into about here is about 90 seconds. So it can move along very quickly. It's all, like I said, it's all automated, it's computerized, so that there's no issues whatsoever in terms of cars passing through. It's about a tunnel that can hold somewhere between 6 and 8 cars at a time, and it's a constant moving process. We do allow for an escape lane. The escape lane is if for some reason something breaks down in the tunnel itself, instead of stalling everything and letting this all back up, we can simply bring the cars out so that they can continue to move along until such time as this gets reorganized. Most of the equipment we have in here is, we have 2 of everything, so that if something does break down, the other system kicks right in so that it keeps the tunnel moving. Yes, I'm sorry, the hours of operation are from 8 in the morning to 8 in the evening, 7 days a week. That's quickly an overview. If there's any questions, be happy to answer. Otherwise, I know you want to hear more from our engineers and stuff like that, so I will turn it over to them. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
Thanks for the introduction. Eric?
No,
Sure.
no,
Oh,
they're not done.
you guys are good. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you. First name is Tung To from the firm Bowler. Happy to be back. Our office actually was the engineer of record for the Walgreens across the street from this property. So we had some benefit of that with some prior history. Some of the first tasks were involved with this project was how do you get sewer to it. We did design the pump station for across the street from Walgreens. So we have the history, we know the routes, and as part of this property, we are going across Dutchess Turnpike. We have our own pump station on site. We will be connecting into one of the force mains that was across the street for the pizzeria. So we using existing features, but since we have the background history, we're able to design it, and so the two systems doesn't peak at the same time. In addition to that, we're also tasked to laying out the site. We're expecting the residential neighborhood and the bufferings and things of that nature. For example, onto Barmo, to the south of our property as a residential, we are providing the buffering. In addition to that, landscaping and such, there's also a retaining wall for a grade change difference. The site is lower, the residential neighborhood is higher, and then also there is a fence around the retaining wall. There's roughly about 300 plants being added as part of this project. As Bob mentioned, there's two lanes for the car wash, and if queue down to one, and then there's an exit point. Several pre-app we had, thank you for your time for that. Some of the changes that we incorporate was reusing the existing driveway off from Dutchess Turnpike as emergency only. So instead of letting everyday vehicle use it, that will only be used for emergency vehicle. There's flexible bollards. Basically, the bollards are there. If a fire truck does come in, they simply drive over it and then it just collapse down. And other thing is, based on the placement of the driveway off the Garmo, we're reusing that. Some of the feedback from the review letter is about the potential conflict. Looking at it, we are stopping the control for the on-site traffic for the ease of ingress and egress from the road, but we appreciate the comment, so we're going to take a closer look at it and potentially reuse existing driveway as a egress-only driveway, and then propose a new ingress-only driveway to separate the two traffic to eliminate any potential concerns. So, in addition to that, LED lightings are being proposed as part of this project. Downward fully cut off, dark sky compliance. In terms of stormwater, underground features being proposed, infiltration basins. We have our geotech out there sampling. I think they're there today, in fact, for additional testing. So. Correct. As part of this car wash operation, not every ounce of water that comes in is being used. There's a reclaim system, so about 80% of that water is being reclaimed and being reused. In addition to that, aside from the tanks outside for settling and for debris and things like that, oil water separators, inside the machineries in the room, there's also an osmosis system that further cleanses the water. Basically, if you're sitting in a car going through one of these wash, the water is almost spotless. So.
Sounds a good recycle system. All right.
Now I'll pass over to you, Demi.
Traffic.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Demi Process. I'm the traffic engineer with Stonefield Engineering and Design. So our office prepared the traffic impact study that was submitted and has been reviewed by the board's professionals. We did get a chance to look at the review letter prepared by JMC. So, we're still going through that, and we will work directly with JMC to make sure that all of those comments get addressed. So I'm not gonna go through one by one at this point, but there's just a couple of comments that I wanna, just address up front. First and foremost being that we have submitted a stage 1 application to the New York State Department of Transportation. So, we have initiated that highway work permit application process, and we'll be coordinating with DOT accordingly and, comply with all of their requirements. Secondly, there was a comment regarding queuing and just how to ensure that the amount of stacking space provided on site would adequately accommodate the, anticipated demand. So for that, I just want to confirm we will be putting together a official queuing analysis based on, Spark's operations and their service rate and anticipated arrival. But I think, a key item here is what, Bob was sort of mentioning during his testimony was the automation and the amount that this site is automated. That really removes that queuing concern. One of the, probably the biggest benefit of this application from a traffic perspective is the fact that Spark has the ability to adjust the speed of the tunnel. So, even under a scenario where they're experiencing an influx in traffic, or there's some unforeseen event where all of a sudden there's a ton more traffic than they typically experience, they have the capability to speed up that tunnel in order to handle that increase in traffic. So queuing on site is really not a typical concern for these types of modern car washes. And then lastly, I guess, Bowler typically already commented on the adjustments we plan to make on that driveway entering onto Garmo Road, because we understand that there were several concerns regarding that access point. So again, just to reiterate, we will be taking a look at that to, ensure that something is proposed that everyone is, comfortable, because obviously customer safety is the main priority here.
It's a busy intersection.
Yeah, absolutely. Then I believe, those are the main comments from the JMC letter that I wanted to address. The remaining comments were pretty technical in nature that we will make sure to address, but we really don't anticipate having or altering the findings of the traffic impact study, which ultimately show that the proposed development would not create a significant impact on the traffic operations of the signal or surrounding network. Ultimately, this site has operated historically as a car wash, rather, even if it's somewhat underutilized, it has
a little lower volume.
a little bit, but it's.
At one point, it was a lot busier than it is right now,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. And so, the same type of use will be remaining, and I think a main point is the driveway along Dutchess Turnpike also being, modified to be from a full movement access point today to just be emergency access is a major benefit from a traffic safety standpoint, because for vehicles to be able to enter and exit that driveway, they have to cross, 3 travel lanes. So, that's certainly a safety concern today that we believe is being mitigated as part of this application.
All right, thank you.
I'd like to add one more thing, if I may.
Sure.
And I apologize for not talking about it earlier. A lot of times, it becomes of interest to board members like yourself is about how much water are we using and what's happening with that water. So we kind of touched on it in terms of the reclamation system. There's 3 2,000-gallon tanks. So if you think of it almost like in a restaurant, they'll have a 3-compartment sink. We've run that water through those 2,000-gallon tanks and then tie it into a oil water separator. We also then bring that back into the building, and we by way of osmosis, we then store it inside so we can use it as part of the overall final rinse. Industry standards today show that about 60 to 80 gallons of water per car typically goes through in a wash system. But with the reclamation system, we get it down to about 13. And by the time the car actually exits into the sewer system is about 6 to 8 gallons. So we've really been very conscious of that, very careful about that. We also, in the way we've designed this, we try to capture the rainwater as well to run it through, again, the reclamation system that we've designed. We heavily irrigate to, make sure that it's not only appealing, but that it also, offers a nice environmental look in terms of the community. As T mentioned earlier, we're gonna have about 300 plants we're gonna add to the site. We've designed it in such a way so that much of the natural vegetation behind us can remain between us and the residents. And, we kind of pride ourselves on trying to be a good neighbor. One of the other questions that come up all the time is about the noise, especially, coming through a car wash, everyone's thinking about how loud it's going to be. The orientation of the building is such because the real noise is at the end where the dryers are, and that's what's facing the roadway. So we've gotten it as far away from the community as we possibly can. And we've had studies done where we're within decibel levels that are acceptable at national levels. So, sorry I didn't add that earlier.
Yep, noise was gonna be a question, so glad you explained it. All right, now Eric.
As a first-time submittal, the only action for the board tonight is to declare its intent to be lead agency for the secret environmental review and to circulate. And as in the previous application, that does mean that if you, I don't know when you're planning on responding and resubmitting, but the board will need more time beyond next month in order to get to an environmental conclusion. That said, for tonight, the best thing to do would be for the planning board to just, there's a lot of questions, comments, and issues. The board would be encouraged to discuss those of the site layout, perhaps some of the comments on circulation and queuing. They've addressed some of those already. Traffic, perhaps the lighting, also the county just submitted its comments a few hours ago. We did forward those to you, and they're provided as addendums in your packets for your review. So that said, discuss.
All right, thanks, Eric. Let's go around for discussion. Start with Peter.
Do you wanna get?
Oh, yeah, Andy. Sorry.
And also Mark.
Go ahead, I don't
And
know.
Mark is on. It's getting late, sorry. Go ahead, Andy. I'm sure you
Sure.
have some concerns.
Yeah, we have, I mean, it's initial submission, so it's natural to have a lot of comments on the first submission. I will say I did have a chance to read through some of the county planning comments, and I thought they were pretty valid comments, related to traffic and lighting. You know, they make a good point, and I think we've raised it on some of the previous comments about the lights for the vacuum, the arms, overhead arms, that, you know, all lighting has to be fully shielded and meets, you know, the cutoff requirements, at the property line. And, I'd be curious to see if we can analyze the lights for those vacuum arms or have them turn off like they've suggested in the planning comments, because I think that could be
They said it
a
ends
good idea.
operation at 8 PM, which is,
It's fairly early.
which
It
is
is,
good, at
yeah,
least.
yeah. A couple of things that kind of caught my attention during the presentation. You know, we've looked at several car washes over the years, and one of the things that we always are looking for is details, design details on the reclamation system, so we're gonna be looking for that. I was curious to hear that did you say you have a reverse osmosis system within the facility? I'd be curious to know what happens with the concentrate water from the RO, because that's very highly concentrated, water that, we need to know where that's going. We're also, along those lines, you talked about the usage for the project. We're gonna be looking for a fully detailed engineer's report on the sewer design and the water capacity, as well as, you know, details on how you came up with your usage. You mentioned using the existing force mains. We're gonna be looking for connection details on that, and how you're gonna manage that, and how the two different pump stations are gonna communicate. And then, of course, because it is a shared facility with another private entity, it will require a transportation corporation, which is not an easy process to go through, unfortunately.
And those there's a capacity in the lines, you think?
Well, that'll be something that you'll have to look at with the engineer's report. I was also curious to hear, it sounds like you're harvesting rainwater. Is that a rooftop system that you're collecting and
We just take
directing?
the water that comes off the roof through the leaders into the system, yes.
Into the wash system? Interesting.
Into the
Okay.
reclamation system.
All right, so, yeah, that's another detail, that's great, and something you probably can claim in your SWIP. That's great. Let's see, you mentioned the vacuum and dryer noise. We'll be looking for, you know, manufacturer information on that. And, we also had some circulation comments, but I'm gonna let Mark talk about that.
Yeah, we had a few comments, so, go ahead, Mark.
All right, hello, again. So Mark Petro from JMC took a look at the application. I know there was
touched on a few topics of my letter in the presentation, but just to give a high level, the traffic study, we were looking to expand those areas of study along Dutchess Turnpike. It's a pretty sensitive and busy area, so we're looking to look at those other additional intersections outlining the one right here at the signal. There is some other developments that we asked to have considered in the traffic study as well, and also to revise the trip generation for the car wash that was used in the study. We did ask, I know it was mentioned, we did ask for some supporting data as far as the maximum queue length. The board is very aware and does have concerns with car washes in general. They've reviewed car washes before, and it's definitely a sticking point to look at this very intently on the queuing. I know, processing through the wash is probably quick, but there's obviously different times at which people process through those gates. A member might be processing quicker than someone fumbling around with the screen to push and pay for their car wash. So looking for the processing time for those different types of users, as well as a queuing analysis at the studied intersections and a comparison of the accidents to statewide averages. There was accident analysis provided in the study, but we're looking for a comparison to the statewide averages just to provide some comparison, maybe if there's any kind of need to do some measures to alleviate some accidents that might be occurring there. As far as the site plans, so the first comment really comes up to is the on-site circulation flow. When you're coming in, you immediately got to make that left turn in, to go into the stacking to be processed, and pretty much everywhere else is a stop condition. It's a very short throat, and potentially, I know it was mentioned, and you'll probably say otherwise, but potentially in a worst case condition, if it stacks up and you back all the way to the entrance, you're essentially not allowing people to leave the site at all. So, the queues could potentially go back and prohibit people from leaving the site. So we wanted to see what can be done about the circulation. And just looking at it really quick, we thought of, what if the flow was reversed and maybe the building gets slightly down, moved a little bit south more, planned south more. So if you reverse the flow and make a right instead going towards Dutchess Turnpike, you'll probably have larger stacking room, and you'll probably alleviate some of the conflicts at the entryway over there. So, that was one thing that stuck as a possibility. We'll leave it to you if there's any others to look at.
Yeah.
And then emergency access, I know that was discussed. We'll leave it to the fire department to weigh in, but we were looking to maybe have that width reduced, maybe clean up the driveway, because, rather not keep it as just an asphalt driveway really wide, maybe some kind of treatment to make it not look as like a driveway, or whether it's raised, but again, coordination with the fire department on that and how they would want that. And then there's landscaping shown in that access way too, which would need to be adjusted as well. I'll try to keep it to probably that potentially. And then the last one, there are other items, but the last one in particular is that the Horseman and any other utility connections, if there's a water connection too, would be a use and occupancy permit from the DOT. That should be started. That's kind of a long process. So you probably need some weighing on that if this force main is to be going forward, and any other. I think you might have had a water connection on Dutchess Turnpike as well, potentially.
Would you be trying to trench or bore under the road for force main?
Directional.
Directional bore? Yeah. Okay. They'll like that better.
Minimize traffic disturbance and such, and it's a small pipe, so.
Thanks.
I just have a quick question. Is there a DEC permit required for these reclamation systems? There used to be.
Yeah.
For car wash reclamation. Do you know that?
In the ones we've built to date, none has been asked of. So if if there's such a thing, of course, we'll explore it and comply. But to
Yeah.
date, that's not.
I don't know, I know there used to be, but I don't know if that's the case
Yeah,
anymore.
they filter it and do all that, I don't know. Yeah, good question. All right, let's, go around the board for comments now. Start with Nicole this time.
Where is the parking for the employees? Because you said you'd have 10 to 12 employees on a daily basis.
No, I'm sorry.
No?
Total.
Total.
Only 3, maybe 4 max. At
Three?
3 to 4 at any one shift.
Okay,
And there's only 2 shifts. It's a total of about 10 to 12.
okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We have dedicated parking spaces without any vacuums for 3 employees. So if there's exceed more than 3, then they'll just utilize one of their other parking spaces that has a vacuum.
Okay, so where the vacuums are. Okay.
Yeah, they're
Or
right there,
aren't,
Nicole.
yeah. So. Because this is on 44, and it is a newer project, so oftentimes we like to see if, a new project can put in sidewalks.
Sure.
So I don't know if that's something you guys can do. That
We
would
can.
be, that would be great.
We can.
I think
Okay,
the county had that comment as well.
okay.
I mean, they're looking to get sidewalks all the way out to, 44
Okay.
at some point.
Yeah, and usually we don't like flat roofs, but I guess if you're collecting, rainwater and then, you know,
I mean,
guess
there'll be a
that's
slight
okay.
pitch to it, of course, but
Yeah, okay.
This is Purple Car Wash, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it, I mean, you know, obviously, we always like to see lots of landscaping, but it does look like you have a nice little line of trees there in front of the residential property. So, I don't know, I think that might be okay. All right, that's all I have.
Yep. Thanks. Rocco?
Nothing new at this time.
Sharon?
Nothing here.
Steve?
Yeah, on the flow, these always make me a little nervous. When they're coming out of the car wash and they take that sharp right turn, if someone were to come out of the vacuum area and somehow stop the traffic right there, how's that communicated back to the wash to shut it down, and how long does that take?
we have one person in the lot itself, just as, for where, if that becomes a bottleneck, just so they can help guide the traffic. But given the number of parking or vacuum stalls we have, it's highly unlikely that that's gonna cause that kind of backup because of the fact there's so many choices. When you get bottlenecks is when you have a limitation as to what the consumer can go to when it comes time to vacuum out their cars.
No, my question's a little different, and it goes back to some discussion earlier today of people following signs. If someone's coming out of the vacuum area, coming up, and he's supposed to take a right, but they don't know what they're doing, and all of a sudden he cuts people off that have made the turn, how does that get back to the washer to stop flow? Because there's only about 3 cars lengths of distance there, that area. So if someone wasn't doing what they're supposed to coming out of the vacuum area, how's that get communicated so the people coming around will stop in enough time that you don't cause a commotion on that end?
Well, first of all, the tunnel itself is automated, so if there's any stop, the whole thing shuts down. Second of all, we have an individual on the lot right there that if that was to happen, say your car broke down just as you were ready to brake, that gets communicated right back to the people that are loading the people into the tunnel and stop everything. And then we can utilize the,
So it's not automatic, though, it requires someone's interaction?
well, there is a stop-go sign at the end of the tunnel that tells people that they should advance or stay. So at some point, if that was to happen, that would remain as a stop.
That was my only question.
All right, thanks, Steve. Ben?
Okay, there's one tunnel, right, for
Yes.
members and commoners?
It's one tunnel.
Commoners.
So how do you know who goes first?
There's 2 lanes, and it's clearly defined saying members or
Right,
paying
I
customers.
noticed 2 lanes, but
Yeah.
what if I'm not a member.
There's
How do I know?
someone, see, the difference is we have someone at that pay station.
Oh, okay.
So they can actually, you know, if something was, if you went to the wrong lane, for example, and
Yeah.
now you're being held, there's someone right there to help you.
Direct you, okay.
Exactly, and we can lift, you know, start it up.
All right. The other thing is the 3 water tanks, 3 6,000-gallon water tanks?
3 2,000.
2,000, okay. And they're fiberglass,
No, they're concrete.
concrete tanks?
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, I thought I saw in the detail that they were fiberglass. Concrete, okay, that answers that.
That's new.
And, I didn't notice any drains on the property. I know the cars come out dry, but obviously there's gonna be
Yeah, there's
some,
exactly.
There's
inlets
throughout the site.
I'm sorry?
There's inlets,
Drains throughout the site? Okay, because I'm worried in the winter, you know, with ice.
Those
snow and
mats
stuff.
that lead to the tunnel as well as come out, we heat those. So that way there's no ice accumulation.
Okay,
That's smart, that's a good plan.
You should teach some other people I know.
that's it, I thought they were fiberglass tanks.
All right.
Concrete tanks holding water.
Yes.
Wow,
It's interesting.
haven't heard of that before. All right, Peter?
I'm curious, you're tapping into the sewer line across the street. Are you becoming a tenant of the sewer district, or are you? Is that essentially what? And you're gonna be boring under Route 44?
Yes,
Have you ever done that before?
yes. Our contractor has experience with that. We're gonna have a pit on our side, or is it gonna be a pit on the opposite side? So yes.
Have you approached the DOT about a permit to do that?
Using our occupancy permit, yes. We're starting that process.
Oh, you have?
Yes.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. See, my 2 cents, you know, it's great to see a site reused and improved, so that's a plus. As to the, I know traffic talked about possible recirculation around, which almost made sense to me at the beginning as far as traffic flow, and thought there'd be queuing further away from the residential. But now that you mentioned the dryers, if the dryers are on this end of the tunnel, that's closer to the residential, so I'm like, it's a good one to think about. As long as we can solve the traffic flow for satisfaction. Because we, you know, any noise and light, we're trying to buffer away from the house. I think the county mentioned something about blinking LED lights or something. I mean, our lighting code does not allow any blinking
No blinking.
lights. Okay, I don't know. what they-
And just if I may add, we don't sell anything either, so there's no ancillary items that we're selling
Yep.
at all. And there's no reader boards and things of this nature, so, no, not at all.
Okay, good. And, let's see, we talked about the sewer. Do you know how high the retaining wall has to be on the southern end there?
12 feet maximum.
Oh, 4, okay, not too bad. To that neighboring house. And there's a tree line there now. Do you think you have to take much of that away? Or
We're preserving as much of that as possible. It's roughly about 40 feet.
Okay. And we've already talked the sidewalk. I guess that's it for today, and you've explained quite a bit.
Okay. I move the planning board declares intent to be lead agency to coordinate the environmental review of the proposed project as an unlisted action and authorize the planning department circulation of said intent, a copy of the EAF and a copy of the application to all involved agencies and identified interested agencies.
Second.
Moved and seconded for lead agency. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
I move the planning board for further action on this application pending establishment of lead agency and subject to the following. Respond to comments of the planning board and those received from town departments and agencies, and said response to be reviewed as to adequacy and completeness, but inclusive of, not limited to, the following 1 through 15.
Second.
Moved and seconded to defer. Call to question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, thanks for hanging in there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Working
Thank you
to
very
improve the
much.
site. Next up, Kristen, we have Children's Home.
Yeah, Kyle is here.
Oh. You guys just came in, okay. Not Kristen.
Trying to get a sympathy vote.
I guess. Government,
It's gotta be binding with some of these guys.
I would think so, right? I don't know how that works. Yeah, I don't know how that works.
Thanks, water tanks and concrete.
Yeah, what about it?
Good evening.
I don't know, is there a problem with water tanks being concrete? Concrete's pretty.
Water.
Okay, the screen share as well.
Maybe they.
Kyle, this is gonna be short, right?
Very short.
All right, just
I
checking.
think you had about.
I've been practicing my
You've been
speech in the
practicing? All
back.
right.
It's about an
Thank you.
hour presentation now.
Okay, good evening, board. It's a pleasure to be back in front of everyone tonight. I wanted to start quickly with a refresher on why we're here. Children's Home of Poughkeepsie provides a great benefit providing educational facilities for members of our community. In the recent years, Children's Home has seeked to offer as much to the needy community that we have, and has the site has been slightly crowded with the amount of people that they have been serving. In an effort to offset the cramped learning rooms, Children's Home was first in front of the board in 2021, seeking a site plan approval for a temporary modular learning center. In 2021, we got conditional site plan approval. Children's Home went back and looked at a different place on the site where they wanted to put this temporary modular learning center.
Yep.
And we came back in front of the board in 2022, where we received conditional site plan approval once again from the board. Following that, we went and satisfied all outstanding conditional comments, including receiving DOH approval, working with the building department and the fire department. And we got to this point here where originally the temporary modular learning center was for a 36-month program, but at this time they recently got approved for an additional 72 months. So I'm here tonight seeking a note amendment on our plan set for an extension of this temporary modular learning center for 72 months. It's important to denote that there is no site plan changes from that approved plan, as well as this note is going to state that conditions that are on site now will be brought back to the existing conditions now after that 72-month period. So with that being said, I'll lean it over to the board for any comments.
Okay, so just to clarify, you said so it's a total of 6 years then, not.
Correct.
Not,
Six additional
not,
years.
not 6 additional on top of the 3.
Correct,
Okay,
right.
Okay, just make sure I heard that right. All right, thanks. Now, Kristen.
I think Kyle covered it all.
Okay.
Yep, fairly straightforward.
All right, any comments from board members on extending it? Any issues with doing this extension? Seeing none, I move that the planning board accept the request to extend the restoration deadline from 3 years to 6 years as proposed, and instruct the applicant to update the demolition plan sheet with a revised note as such.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for waiting around and presenting.
Thanks, Kyle.
And if you didn't recognize me tonight, so I've been working on this beard, trying to give it an Eric Holman look a little bit, you know.
Wow.
There's something I never thought I'd hear.
Have a little Grecian gray there.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, and good luck with the project.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Next up is Guardian Self-Storage, Love Road.
Just a time extension for Guardian. I move that the planning board grant 190-day time extension for the Guardian self-storage application, moving the current approval expiration date from April 17th, 2024 to July 16th, 2024.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Anything else people wish to bring up before the board tonight?
I move that we terminate tonight.
I just,
We have
just
one.
a quick comment.
Yep.
John had brought up, the microplastics. I had written a letter to Kristen, not an official letter to town board, but the microplastics and the PFAS in turfs.
Yep.
There's a lot of science out there that says turf is bad, but then again, natural turf is bad as well. we don't have the science yet to, and we're certainly not in position. I think the sumps might be a great idea, but that's not dealing with the microplastics, that's dealing with anything that settles out. Have something like a filter before, where are they going to discharge the water in the sumps? That's, I guess, the question, you know? Considering that we're discharging it right next to the water treatment plant, where, you know, I just have a little bit of a question about that, and, you know, there are turfs, products that don't use the PFAS those are the forever chemicals in their manufacturing.
Yeah.
So
And that's
having
the firefighting foam that got into stuff.
right, the
down in
firefighting
Newburgh.
foam that's also in your
It's
Starbucks
really
coffee cups and your McDonald's packaging. I mean,
Okay.
it's truly everything.
Well, I went to McDonald's in Germany and they give us plates and forks and
Well, there you
bring it
go.
back in.
Probably, it could be
I-
the
you know,
forks,
I
too.
could
They
be
want them,
mistaken,
they want
but
them again.
when they were describing that process, I'm pretty sure I heard them say that they were gonna take the substance, whatever was left,
And put it
and
back
put it back on the
Yeah,
field.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
but my
thank you.
concern
That's-
is, it's the micro, I mean,
That's
what
the-
they're doing
that's
is the
the-
settles,
that's the
and they're
pebbles.
putting that
Yeah.
on. So perhaps, and again, I don't know the science, it's just a
I mean, they
concern,
said-
all this stuff I've read.
Yeah.
Perhaps putting a filter on the discharge from those sumps.
Mm.
And requiring them to use a safe turf.
Okay.
Nobody else is required to do that, but, you know,
Yeah, the problem is we don't have any standards. You know,
Yeah.
We have no
We
guidance.
need a federal
I mean,
guidance to do something like that, or state guidance, I would say.
yeah, we could just ask them to do their best.
The treatment for PFAS is, in a water treatment system, is literally granular activated carbon. It's a full treatment system, and
Which
that's
is coming-
not a
coming down the
typical
pipe.
process for stormwater.
Yeah, within a number of years, that's gonna be, Poughkeepsie's gonna have to do that, it's coming down. the
It's
pipe.
mostly
But-
for groundwater.
Don't drink anything.
I mean, there's been some new articles recently that these,
Well,
these
exactly, I
these
mean-
have hundreds of microplastics in it, that nanoplastics now that are getting
Right.
into our bodies. And
Right, so that
But
was,
even if you get an aluminum one, it's sprayed with plastic inside, so it won't corrode, so.
yeah, so that was the concern, but I don't know that there's a solution, it's certainly not something that we can put out there, but I just wanted to ask your opinion.
Well,
Yeah, and all we can do is ask them to,
Do the best they can,
as Andy said,
the best materials
I mean,
that are available.
I mean, they explained the drainage to us straight down through, but
Yeah, I mean, and just, maybe, just to clarify, you know, the turf system that they're proposing isn't, the typical turf system, the old, I guess I would say, the old turf system with the black infill between the blades of grass. The grass is literally held in place with sand. So it's less, there would be less plastic in theory than for example, what they put in at Lord's the last time.
they said there was a
Didn't
filter,
they show
filter
sand,
barrier,
though?
there's a filter barrier.
Underneath. But
Sand,
you're
and
saying-
this one. So the old way is with this black kind of
Okay.
rubber stuff that they
There you go,
put in
see,
between.
kick up.
That is not the case in this.
Okay,
in this.
but then they said there's a filter fabric also underneath the sand, I believe.
The filter fabric was to keep the
Sand.
sand out of the underlying gravel.
Okay, so that's just more
Right.
like a landscape filter,
Yeah.
not
Now, there
something
may be
special.
microplastics in the filter fabric too, but I mean, we
Yeah.
can't get away from it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for bringing that up.
Peter, you have something to say?
I just wanted to hear Andy say reverse osmosis again.
Reverse osmosis.
Thank you.
Well, that said, there's a motion.
Yes, I motion to terminate tonight's meeting.
Second.
Motion is seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I guess we're signing off. Have a good night, everyone.
Was this your people?